Green light clock, it's straight up 6 o'clock. I'd like to go ahead and welcome everybody here tonight to this, our annual and regular meeting of the Board of Trustees, Blaine County School District number 61. Let's see, today is the 12th of July, 2016. We do have a quorum present. We have Trustee Clayton, Trustee Corker, myself, Trustee Benyon, as well as Trustee Bustos. Dr. Holmes, our district superintendent, is also with us in attendance, as is Ms. Amanda LaChance, our board clerk. We also have Adam King here present with us, as well as Karen Echeverria, the ISBA Executive Director, Idaho State School Boards Association. She's here visiting a few different districts this week. Mr. John Blackman is with us tonight, as is Val Siemens, our finance manager. So with that, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. And we also have Ms. Olga Masasantos here with us if there's any Spanish interpretation needed. Si alguien necesita interpretación a español, por favor, véase a la señora Olga Masasantos. If you could, please stand with me and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We'll go ahead and just dive right in to the annual meeting, item number 3 on the agenda, and I will open it up for nominations to elect chairman of the Board of Trustees of Blaine County School Districts. Trustee Corker.
So I nominate Cami Bustos for chair. I am making that motion.
I will second that.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yes, I would like to have some discussion about that. I think it's time for new leadership that will allow us to focus on the cause of educating children. The board has faced a lot of challenges this year. This is an amazing opportunity for us to have a fresh start. In the short time that Cami has been on the board, she has demonstrated a clear understanding of the job of being a board member. She has shown that she understands that we need to be responsive to the values, beliefs, and priorities of the people of our community. She has been a strong voice for children. Cami has brought an important perspective to board discussion with her ties to the Hispanic community. She has shown superb judgment and innate leadership qualities. I think Cami would be an excellent board chair and just what we need to move forward.
Further discussion?
Yeah, I think I appreciate everything Liz has to say about Cami. I don't think I'm going to be able to vote for Cami because I think that she's too new to this group. I'm still relatively new, and I would not be comfortable as chair. And I also feel that she has pretty wide responsibilities in her personal life as well as her public servant life, and I think that's going to be challenging. I think she's missed meetings already, and I think for her to take this role on at such an early date with her lack of experience could be a challenge. So I'm not going to be able to vote for her.
Okay.
Further discussion? Those in favor of Trustee Bustos as chair?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Motion fails 2-2. Is there a further motion on the board?
I would make the motion to elect Elizabeth Corker as board chair.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I will bring up discussion. During my short time on the board, I have seen Liz's great concern for the children of our district. I've also seen some things that I've found troubling, such as open meeting violations and recommendations when I had asked for further time for major decisions, and to further find out that there was time that we could have extended for those big decisions has been a big concern for me. And so for that, I would like to, think that we need to have somebody in the position of board chair that is not going to give us open meeting violations among some other questionable leadership skills.
Further discussion? All those in favor of Trustee Corker as chair?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion fails 2-2. Any further nominations at this time?
How does this play out? Do we just going to go around the table and vote everybody down, or I'm not really sure how this is going to go. Is that how we do this?
You can nominate Sean, or Sean can nominate Sean, or he can nominate you, right?
I've already said I'm not experienced or interested enough to do that. I'm comfortable in my role as it stands. So that would leave me up to nominating Sean. I'll nominate Sean.
I'll go ahead and second to move it along. Any discussion? Those in favor of Trustee Benyon as chair? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Motion fails 2-2. Point of clarification, Mr. King. One of the, if I am correct in my understanding, one of the main responsibilities in the annual meeting by Idaho Code that we have to do is to elect a chair. What happens in the failure to be able to do that with a split vote on all nominations?
I was asked to research this, and the conclusion is that unless the legislative intent is manifestly otherwise, that the existing officers would hold over until new officers are elected. And that appears to be a very clear law of the United States.
Okay. So am I correct in my understanding that as far as chair, there's 4 things that by code have to be elected
That's
in
correct.
the...
Chairman, vice chairman, clerk, and treasurer.
And if there's a split vote, things just continue on as...
That's correct. Those are the specifically enumerated positions in the annual meeting in 33506.
Okay. And that would continue until we have a 5th board member who is able to break a tie one way or the other.
Or you otherwise agree, and there's 3 votes. Yep.
Hearing that, is there anyone willing to change their decision, or should we move on to the next item on the agenda with the vice chair? All right, we will move on to the item number 4, elect a vice chairman of the Board of Trustees of Blaine County School District number 61, and I'll go ahead and open it up for nominations at this time.
I will go ahead and elect Trustee Corker as vice chair.
I will second that motion.
Any discussion?
No.
Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. On to item 5, appoint school district treasurer of Blaine County School District number 61. I'll go ahead and open it up for nominations at this time.
I would nominate Val Siemens as interim business manager to take over the role of treasurer, as we currently have it. We're still seeking a business manager, and at this time we need somebody probably who is aware and understands the system. So that's actually discussion and a motion. I nominate Val Siemens.
I'll go ahead and second that nomination. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I think Val is probably the best suited for the role at this juncture. I don't think we have somebody to put into that role that would understand it as well as she does. So I think that she's suitable to take on that task and the requirements, which is basically depositing the checks from the state as they come into the district office. So I think you can do it.
Further discussion, Trustee Corker?
Yes, I would like to see this position. I think that this is a wonderful position in terms of the opportunity that it provides for the board to have some expert help. We've got a huge budget, and I'd like to see the board be able to define this job and to have perhaps a workshop to define the job. I would like to nominate, I know there's already a motion on the floor, but depending on how that goes, Ms. Siemens until the next board meeting, but I do feel like we need a workshop to define the treasurer role. It's an opportunity.
Further discussion?
I would agree with Trustee Corker that we need to have more discussion about the treasurer position. As I know it's come up for discussion before about splitting the business manager treasurer position, but I agreed with that back when we voted on it, just because I knew that Mr. Chatterton was approaching his retirement, and I felt we could discuss that at a later time. Well, now that time is upon us, I think that this is the perfect time to discuss that.
Are you prepared, just clarifying question, are you proposing that we discuss that at this meeting or a work session as Trustee Corker proposed?
I think a work session would be more appropriate.
Okay. All right, further discussion at this time? Those in favor of appointing Val Siemens as the treasurer, or interim treasurer?
Quick question, just for clarification. Can I amend the motion at this point, and then we vote on the amendment, and then go back to the original? Okay. I'd like to make an amendment that we appoint Val Siemens until the next board meeting, contingent upon a workshop about the job description for the position.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
So just for clarifying purposes, the motion is to appoint Val Siemens as treasurer with the amendment of having a work session to define the role of treasurer.
Mm-hmm.
Voting
So
only
until the next board meeting.
until... Just 1 month. Just 1 month?
Exactly. Just 1 month.
Okay. Any discussion on that amendment? My fear is that 1 month might not be quite enough time. I personally feel that, well, I think it is a good idea to define the role of treasurer with the board and have that discussion in the work session. My fear is that if we put a time limit of just a month, that doesn't quite give us enough time to have a good idea of who the new business manager would be, what their experience level would be either. I think we need to extend that timetable just a month or two to give us adequate time in order to make the best decision possible. Well, I think, as I mentioned, I think the discussion of the role and the definition of that role of treasurer is important. I just think the 1 month timetable is too short for me.
I understand that concern.
So all those in favor of the amendment as presented by Trustee Corker of 1 month, those in favor?
Aye.
I'm no.
I wanted to make an amendment to the amendment.
Why don't we vote on the amendment? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Let's vote
So
on
I
this.
think I'm going to say, for now, I'm going to say nay,
Okay.
because I understand your concern.
So we have 1 aye. I'll vote nay as well. So 1 aye, 3 nays. Amendment fails. Trustee Corker, would you like to make an amendment?
Sure, I'll make an amendment that we appoint Val Siemens to be treasurer until the second board meeting after this one, so that would be in July, August, September. So sometime between now and September, we need a workshop to define the job description of treasurer.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Hi, we probably should have seconded that one.
Oh, correct. Thank you very much for catching that.
No
We have a
problem.
motion. Is there a second? I'll go ahead and second.
Thank you.
Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Amendment carries. So now back to the original motion of putting Val Siemens as treasurer. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Of treasurer for
Correct.
contingent.
Contingent upon our amendment.
Aye.
Yeah, the amendment passed, so it would be
Okay.
basically aye.
Okay.
So-
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. All right, on to item number 6, appoint clerk of the board of Blaine County School District number 61 for the 2016-17 school year. Go ahead and open that up for nominations at this time.
I'll nominate Amanda LaChance.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Thank you, Amanda.
I would just like to say thanks for keeping us on the ball, for being very succinct in your writings. Thank you for helping us. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Item number 7, appoint school district attorney of Blaine County School District number 61 for the 2016-17 school year. I'll go ahead and open that up for nominations at this time.
I would like to make a motion to appoint the law firm MSBT as our school district attorney.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Who is MSB? Well, let's wait.
So
till
it's
I go.
Elaine Eberhardt Mackey.
We
Yeah, that we've already talked about.
We need a second first before we talk about it.
I'll second that motion, too.
Any
So,
discussion?
who is MSBT?
It's the one that we talked about last time, Elaine Eberhardt Mackey, who is probably one of the best qualified in the state regarding school district law and most experienced. We already use that firm for most things, including the transgender policy.
That's what I was going to say.
For many.
Aren't we already have a contractual relationship with them?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right.
do we really need to vote on them if we have a contractual relationship
Yeah.
as the board attorney? I would have to say, as far as discussion goes, I would be uncomfortable with this right now because I'm very unfamiliar with them other than the work that I read from them. And if, for example, I look at the transgender policy as I read it, and I was able to compare that to the one you provided, it was pretty boilerplate and not nearly as robust as what the work was provided from that school in Virginia, which I was very respectful of. So I think that I was not overly impressed with Eberhard and Mackey's work, to be quite frank. So I don't see jumping from our current legal counsel to them in light of what I just read as work product as really a significant move at this time.
Right.
Trustee Corker.
So we have had quite a year in terms of legal representation. We've had a lot of black eyes and problematic opinions. And so this is a firm that is highly regarded. I know that you stated that you have some problems with this particular opinion. I think that's evolving, and possibly they may. I think Virginia, Minnesota, it wasn't Virginia, but it's Virginia, Minnesota, is probably on the forefront of that. Who knows, MSBT may be coming down the track as far as the how, of that type of policy. But their belief is, it says, we believe in preventative law and responding to our clients' needs proactively instead of reacting. We help our clients at the beginning of any issue or matter that comes forth to help our clients avoid costly litigation. And I think that that's something that this school district can definitely benefit from. I think our legal costs have been astronomical and the decision's problematic.
Further discussion. Dr. Holmes.
I just have the question of, have you talked with them about their willingness to serve as our legal counsel and be over here for meetings, because it is a travel distance?
I have not talked to them about that, and why is there something that would prevent them? For example, Holly Troxel came up. Is there something that would prevent them from being, if they were needed last minute, from being put in through our system here so we could receive
on
the
a call
benefit,
and
of their counsel?
I'm just asking if you've
Yeah.
talked to them so that you guys aren't making a decision based on not knowing whether they're even available.
Right. It seems like in this day and age of technology, that's not a problem. And it's really, you want the highest quality.
So was there a particular counsel within that firm that you feel is of great value?
You know what? That's a good question. I had a discussion with Elaine Eberhardt Mackey. This was 2 or 3 weeks ago, and she suggested someone, and I can't recall his name, but the main takeaway that I had from that is she oversees everybody. So decisions are passed through her, opinions are passed through her. She's really, the buck stops with her because she has the experience and the expertise.
Mm-hmm. So there's would be 2 points of contact for any kind of issue that would come up then? Because
Not unless there was a problem.
Potentially there would be. And if something was then kind of an emergency or a last-minute deal,
Right.
then that would have to be conferred and then related through her for a final decision from them,
Yeah.
which could be, and I think, somewhat problematic. Say we had an emergency situation in some type of event or course of action or meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be, that's where I kind of go along with Glenn Carroll and the distance factor. And then with the distance factor and then a chain of command that has to be passed through, problematic, in my opinion.
So we would just pick up the phone and talk to our current attorney, just like we would pick up the phone and talk to them. And I think that what happens is that, from what I understand, it's an extra, and it's to our benefit, it's an extra layer of expertise that we don't have at this point. So I don't see any downside, I only see upside to that.
Actually, I did some diligence on the, because of, I think it's on the agenda again, about what you asked for last meeting about having somebody from them. What was the name of the person you?
It's on my computer.
You don't remember the name of the person that you wanted? Okay. Well, I can't remember her name either, but I did look into it a little bit.
No, it was a he.
Elaine.
Elaine, yes, it was
Oh, Elaine Eberharder Mackey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, as we talk about embattled school districts and things like that, I believe she was the counsel for the West Ada School District. And since that time, I believe she's been released by them, if that's not incorrect. Is that correct, Karen? Do you know that?
That is correct.
It is correct. So there's a controversial district who had her as a lawyer who no longer has her as a lawyer. So it's like, that's kind of a flag to me as well, if that's a lot of controversy and problem, and she's not managing that and being released by them.
I don't think
So that is the fact. So
Right.
I just want to state the fact for the record.
So why are we using them then?
Why are you nominating them to be our
No, but I mean,
lawyer?
why are we using them in the first place? So I think that
Because
there's...
they come through the ISBA, I believe.
Well,
Dr.
that's-
Holmes?
yeah.
No? No, that's the other woman.
We
I'm
use
sorry.
them primarily for special ed. That is her area of expertise.
Okay.
And you'll see that reflected in our bills, our legal fees. And we also use them for updates, suggested updates on policy. For example, the policy that you guys recently passed for the updates on how you interact with the community came directly from Elaine
Okay.
Eberhardt Mackey.
So, Karen, do you happen to have any information about that situation in Ada in terms of what the reasons were that she may have been let go?
Mr. Chairman, I don't. I think it was with the change of the new board. There were actually 2 attorneys that were working, Breck Seiniger and Elaine's firm were working, and then I think with the change of the board, they reverted back to Anderson, Julian, and Hull. And I think change in the superintendent as well. They moved back to Anderson, Julian, and Hull.
I know that Adam at one point referred to her as the expert in educational law. This was a few years ago when we had a situation with a software license situation and a transition of leadership in our school district, and she was the go-to person in terms of expertise. If you know, I think that we need someone who is impeachable, and it seems that unless you have someone who's impeachable, she and her firm are the best experienced in the state, and that's why we look to them for so much of our policy.
Well, I know they're reasonable as far as the policy help they give us, right? The fees that they charge.
In terms of the fee, they just send us the updates.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the extent of it, other than special ed law. For personnel, I use Anderson, Julian, and Hall.
And I guess I have to reiterate the point that I made about the transgender policy and the lack of robustness of it, right? Like, that's a pretty significant issue, and it's a significant national issue, and I think there's plenty of data and research out there regarding that. And I did a little bit of my own homework, and I appreciate you doing your homework, and I think that what you provided is far superior to what they provided us. There's a lot of holes in what we have compared to what that is, and it was really well done in terms of the entire school district and school system and all groups and all people. So I'm having a hard time with your nomination. I'm just telling you.
Right.
I'll go ahead and call the question, unless there's any new information. Those in favor of Elaine Eberhardt Mackey, MSBT, as the District Attorney of Blaine County School District?
Aye.
No.
Those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Motion fails, 1-3. Any further nominations at this time? I guess we'll continue with Mr. King until further nominations. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to item number 8.
I know I can't nominate, but I can recommend somebody.
I believe that
From
I
our
would
staff.
I would nominate Deb Gutknecht. I believe she.
For Title I, I would recommend Aaron Bronson.
Aaron Bronson?
As we are moving duties around.
Okay. I would nominate Aaron Bronson on the recommendation of the superintendent as the best person for that role.
I'll go ahead and second. Any discussion?
What is Aaron Bronson's background, and how does it relate to this position?
She is the program coordinator, so in the last year, she has been responsible, let's get my mic on, she's been responsible for both Title I and Title III, which are our English language learners. She worked with all 3 of our Title I schools this past year to take them through the process of moving from targeted assistance, which is the process where, as a Title I school, you can provide services paid for by Title I monies only to specific kids who qualify, to school-wide programming, which means that I can use my Title I funds at Bellevue, Alturas, and Cary to serve any kids in any combination. So I could serve, if I have an English language learner, rather than sending them over here for reading help and over here for language help, I can send them to one teacher who helps them with the whole ball of wax in a more cohesive way. Her background is she's been a principal. She was one of our principals at Bellevue, and prior to that, she worked at a very innovative school in Oregon, Washington. I'm looking at Oregon, and helped them develop their new programming there and special ed prior to that. So she's very in tune to working with kids with special needs, whether it's special ed or English language learning, because that's always been her environment other than her stint as a principal. The other reason that we're making this recommendation is this removes from Ms. Gutknecht all of the compliance issues. She has the special ed compliance, which is huge in itself, and then Aaron would have the Title III, Title I compliance issues, so that they are not spending all their time on compliance, they're also spending some of their time in schools directly working with teachers.
Further discussion at this time? All those in favor of appointing Ms. Erin Bronson for the LEA rep for Title I?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. On to item number 9, appoint LEA. I'll go ahead and open it up for nominations at this time.
You want a recommendation?
You give us,
Debbie
please.
Gutknecht.
Deb,
Debbie
I was
Gutknecht.
going to say Deb.
We're trying to split the compliance stuff.
Okay.
And this would be on her
I
side
would
of the
nominate
line.
Deb Gutknecht for the liaison for children and youth experiencing homelessness for the 2016-17 school year.
I'll go ahead and second. Any discussion?
I'm trying to find out how much is on Debbie's plate right now, because it sounds like she's might be getting spread a little bit thin. Or how much? What are you working with currently? Or Can we?
Ms. Gutnick, would you mind responding to the question?
you come-
Thank you for asking. So special ed is always my biggest place where my heart is. But I also oversee other programs within the district, such as our social workers. Our social workers are also our homeless liaisons at the building level. So I meet with them monthly. So to me, that seems to make sense, that I work closely with them as we work with our kids who experience homelessness.
Okay.
School nursing. Let's see, what else is there? There's
We just took Title I off your plate.
We did. We took that off. So suddenly it feels like I have a lot more time than I did before. But thank you for being thoughtful of my time.
Special ed and 504, I would say.
504s, yeah.
Primarily.
They take
Okay.
a lot of time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Further discussion? All those in favor of appointing Ms. Gutnick as the McKinney-Vento Act liaison? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. On to item last year, as far as the board liaisons, we had Trustee Corker on the finance, Trustee Clayton on policy, and Trustee Freund on the wellness. Is there anyone who would like to volunteer for any particular committee? Trustee Corker?
So I would like to respectfully resign from my position as board liaison to the Financial Committee, and I would like to participate in the Wellness Committee.
Okay. Anybody else have a Trustee Clayton?
I'll continue to work with the policy committee as well as my schedule will fit.
I will go for the finance committee.
And
Perfect.
Can I
Trustee
ask a
Corker?
question? So I just, I want to make sure, because I've heard, I don't know how many, they're monthly meetings, and we have to make sure that we're attending those meetings. And I've gotten a lot of feedback that I don't know how many meetings you were able to attend this year. Do you have a rough idea?
Yeah, I think I got to 2 of them.
Okay. And there were
Probably more than 2.
a lot.
How many were there, John? 9.
Okay. So that doesn't, I really need your help. I think our board really needs your perspective on that. So I would respectfully request that you be the go-to person for our board, and that I be able to trust that you've seen what's going on there.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
All right. Point of clarification, do we need an actual vote on that, or is that just a decision at the table? Okay. All right. With nothing further there on that one, we'll go ahead and move on to Finance Committee. I've reached out to Mr. Lyman Drake, and according to our policy, the way it's written, they can serve up to 3 terms, 1-year terms. Mr. Drake has served for 2 terms and is willing to continue on for his 3rd term. I know that there's some others that have requested not to serve, and I think there needs to be some continuity on that. And so as far as my appointment, I'm going to appoint Mr. Lyman Drake to the Finance Committee from Zone 1. Is there Trustee Corker?
Thank you. I share Finance Committee Chair Mike Beck's opinion, which he stated at a previous board meeting, that in its current configuration, the Finance Committee cannot function as a truly independent body. It was intended to, quote, assist the board in fulfilling its oversight responsibilities and ensuring the public's trust. As the board liaison to this committee for 2 years, I do not believe it has fulfilled this charge. I will not be naming an appointee.
Okay. Anyone else?
For my zone, I have heard that John Geddert has decided to decline to serve for another term, and I am still looking for somebody at this time.
Okay. Trustee Clayton?
Sandy Viao has declined to participate again. I'm still seeking, as well as Cami is, for somebody. On the bigger picture, I think that I'm not sure where or who invented this committee, but I think the functionality of this committee is now dwindling significantly, and I'm not really sure why, so I'm actually questioning why we even have it, because nobody wants to do it. And so, like I said, I don't know where it started, but it seems to me that it's withering on the vine. So I'm not even really sure why we're doing it.
Trustee Corker.
I completely agree with that opinion. This committee became rife with conflict of interest. It was no longer independent. And I think I've heard from most of the people who were appointed to the committee, or several of the people who were appointed to the committee in public, say, why are we here? So I agree, and I think a lot of people share your opinion.
Do we act on that at this time? I mean, I would make a motion to eliminate it at this juncture. Can we do that? I mean, we're appointing it. It seems like, why do we put our time into it?
Yeah, I would, if we're going to have that type of discussion, I think
Put that on the
needs
next
to be
agenda?
on a future agenda.
Okay.
So there's proper public notice.
Yeah, well, you can amend the agenda at the meeting if you state the reason and a good faith reason for amending the agenda. It doesn't seem like there's any expediency needed.
It's not an
to
urgency
amend the
thing.
agenda. Yeah, but you always have to have a good faith reason of why it's done at the meeting instead of on the noticed agenda.
Well, it sounds like we're limited on appointments, so I would say that I would recommend we go to the next meeting and put it on the agenda for revisitation and accept who is signed up at this juncture. I got no appointment. Cami has no appointment.
Am I hearing consensus from the board at that? Ms. LaChance, would you, sorry. Ms. LaChance, would you please make a note to have that on would be the August agenda? Thank you very much. Okay, we'll go ahead and move forward with the policy committee appointments. And these are historically who has been on the committee. From the district office, Mr. John Blackman. Administration representing schools, Mr. Don Hazley, Mr. John Pierce, and Mr. Mark Savageau. HR representative has been Jeff Loosely. Blaine County Education Association president or designee, Trinji Van Slyke and Timothy Reardon. And members of the public have been Kristen Anderson and Penny Thayer. It is recommended by administration that the new 16-17 policy committee appointments, they recommend Mr. John Blackman as the district office administrator. Admin representing schools, Mr. John Pierce and Mr. Mark Savageau. And HR representative, Ms. Shannon Massa. And the Blaine County Education Association president or designee continues with Trinji Van Slyke and Timothy Reardon. Are there any other members of the public or any other appointments at this time? Trustee Corker.
Thank you. I think that Penny and Kristen have a wealth of knowledge, and I think that I believe that they both want to be on the committee again. I know that Penny said she would do it again. So I think that they both should be members again. There's a gap, unfortunately, if you have two people at the high school. So I asked a couple of PTA gals in the elementary school. Jennifer Schwartz agreed to be on the committee, which was very nice. And I think that there's now a gap. I would love to see another elementary school parent, and I would like to see at least one middle school parent, but I haven't had a chance to reach out. So perhaps we could keep a couple of more slots open.
Yeah, from my understanding of the policy committee, you need a minimum of two, but there is no maximum designated. So that would be copacetic with our current policy to appoint the three at this point in time. And if there's in the future further appointments, that's definitely doable as well.
Great.
So
I can at least fill the role of middle school parent to some
That's
degree.
great.
I have a middle school student, had 2 this year.
So, all right. Do I hear consensus then on those appointments? All right. We will go ahead and move forward to item number 12. Establish the dates, times, and places of regular school board meetings for the 2016-17.
To the
To the
third
third.
Tuesday.
I think that is an excellent catch, and I appreciate you doing that.
Nice catch.
As a guy, I miss
Yeah,
things a
I
lot.
know. Yeah,
Throwing that
Men
out
and
there.
Valentine's Day.
That's right. So, thank you very much. I appreciate that. So, do I hear a motion then to, actually, I think I heard a motion to accept this schedule with the change of February to the third Tuesday of that month. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Once again, thank you, Cammie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Designate public places for posting of public notices. This is what has historically been done. This is above and beyond what the Idaho Code requires us to do, and I personally would recommend that we continue on with this practice. Trustee Corker.
So I would like to add a couple of groups, news groups. One is the Weekly Sun, and the second is Ion Sun Valley. So we only have now Mountain Express, and if we could add those two to put it in, to send out the notices, the public notices to the Weekly Sun and the Ion Sun Valley. I just sat next to Karen Vosek, and she's trying to do great things in this community.
I'm not opposed to those additions. Any further discussion?
Can we also post it like maybe on Facebook? I know that on the website, just, because we are becoming more involved in the social media, that, that might help increase our numbers of attendance at our meetings as well.
Adam, I'm going to defer to you on this question. To my understanding, for legal purposes, I don't know that we can use Facebook. I think it's a great idea to put it on Facebook, but can we use that as a legal posting?
Well, as long as you're going above what the code requires, you can post it anywhere you please.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Any social media, MySpace, Facebook, Twitter.
Whatever social media platforms we use, I guess. Maybe social, just putting it as social media.
Okay. Ms.
Trustee Corker, were you suggesting to add to the email notice, because that's what we currently do?
Oh, okay.
To add Ion Sun Valley and the Weekly Sun?
Sure.
Is that okay?
Yes, please.
That seems like cost-effective notification improvement. Let's go for it.
Yeah.
All right. Do I hear a motion to accept the additional places with the current list?
I'll make that motion to accept the motion with the modifications that we've just stated.
Is there a second?
Second.
Or any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. On to the next item is the adoption of Code of Ethics for the school board members for the 2016-17 school year. I'll go ahead and open it up for discussion at this time. Trustee Corker.
So we had quite a discussion about this last year. And I value this document, and I think that it can be very useful, as long as we have a consensual understanding about what these terms mean. And there's terms in here like special interests. And I don't know if we have a complete understanding, or at least we have the same understanding of what a special interest group is. As well, and actually I'll define it, it's a group of people or an organization seeking or receiving special advantages, typically through political lobbying. So I'm not sure that we have a common understanding of that in terms of how that plays out in our decision making. I also, last year, I think that we need, I believe that this has got a lot of governance pieces in it as well. The board-super relationship is wound through here in a way that contains a lot of opinions about what that relationship will be. And I would like to suggest a governance workshop so that we can clarify that and make sure that we have that relationship right, as well as some of these terms that are included in here.
Could you give a little more clarity to what you feel is ambiguous within this document, or not really, what you want to clear up?
Sure.
As far as that relationship
Sure.
is defined?
Sure. So I think that the board relationship with the superintendent, there is, in this document, recognize that the superintendent is the board's advisor. There's a lot of expertise out there that says that actually the board answers to the owners of the district, and then the superintendent answers to the board. And this can be misconstrued as to having that relationship upside down. And I think that that needs to be fleshed out so that some people don't have a misunderstanding of what that relationship actually needs to be. Yeah, I'd like to have a workshop about this. This is a lot more, there's a lot more in here than I think we should be going over tonight. In addition, I think that just having this document and showing, recognize that the board must comply with open meeting law, it may make us feel good, but it didn't do a lot of good this year. So I think that possibly we need to come to a common understanding of the importance of these terms, what they really mean, so that they're not just words on a piece of paper that we frame and put up to make ourselves feel good.
So when you specifically designate this open meeting law like violation, how many open meeting law violations do we have this year?
You were part of it. I don't know. There were two counts. I believe there were two counts.
We had one, I believe. Is that correct, Adam?
I was made aware of one, as far as I know.
It was one.
Yeah, it was in December.
And what is it? What is the average of a board in a year of open meeting law? Karen, do you have any idea? I'm just curious.
We should be making none.
Of course we should be making none.
Exactly.
I would agree.
And I think we felt pretty bad about that, and I think we rectified
at
that.
which I was not present.
Yeah.
I want to stress that.
No, I think that we basically did own up to it and cured it as rapidly and correctly as possible. It was an error,
Right.
and I stand by the error.
Right.
I mean, I accepted that and went and cured it. You
Right.
know? That was clear. And this document helps me with understanding that.
Right.
So I'm not quite getting your point on that. And I'm not going to get into the heated debate I did with you last year about your opinion of ethics and my opinion of ethics, because I think we have some differences of opinion there. But at the same time, I think, as I said last year, there's pretty good clarity for me in what this provides, you know, and I think there are things as far as decorum and things that we really should be handling as a board, you know, particularly with our discourses or way we at this table address the superintendent. I'm in full agreement with you there, you know. I sat here last week and listened to, or last month, and, you know, you were very, very challenging and difficult towards the superintendent in a very impersonal fashion over the phone. Like, that was really a bit unsettling. And you know, if you want to go and look at this thing, I think that I think it's pretty good, you know, and when we have actions like that, I don't really want to tailor something to meet an individual on this board's need. I think this document provides guidance to multiple boards. I think that it's been in place for quite a while, and I think it functions fairly and clearly for most people. So, you know, I'm glad to discuss it more, but to gut it out or make things work better for us in particular, my us is okay with it. And I'm not sure how the other us's here are, but it's like, it's an us thing. So that's how I feel about it, in civil terms this year.
I would agree with you, Trustee Corker, on one point, that I do feel that we do need a work session on governance. That had been my plan for the summer board retreat. And I know Ms. LaChance has reached out to Elaine Eberhardt and Mackey, tried to find dates. I've responded back to Ms. LaChance on when I'm available. I don't know if you've been able to have any other responses back on availability. So, but I would like to have a discussion as a board on governance and be able to have that.
I'm
work
good with that,
session.
too.
Right. Thank you.
Trustee Corker.
I would like for the chair to include all board members in the discussion of who's going to provide that workshop, because board governance is something that is subject to various opinions and philosophies, and I think that it does help to be to not feel like it's being done to you. It's being done as a consensus and a collaboration that we can all play a part in.
Which is why we reached out to Elaine Eberhardt and Mackey, as per your recommendation.
Well, I don't even know what I have no idea what her background is in school governance, per se. I don't know, you know, I know what she believes in law, but I don't know the governance piece of it in terms of what should be the role of the board and what should be the role of the, I mean, maybe she's the perfect candidate, I don't know. I have not heard that that the workshops are her. I do know that there's a group called Policy Governance, and there's something called Coherent Governance, and that's very commonly understood that that's their expertise, their only expertise. And
Trustee Clayton?
Trustee Corker, I have to go back to your previous comments about recommending Eberhard and Mackey for the lawyer as of the governing body of the school district, and then your comment about you're not sure of their expertise in governance. I'm troubled by that. I just need to state that, because earlier in the meeting you wanted to nominate them as our lawyer, and that is the lawyer for the governance portion of this school district.
Right.
And now you're saying you don't know what their ability is in governance?
No, I didn't.
You just said that.
Okay, so maybe
you don't. You just said that.
Okay, so Trustee Clayton, possibly I need to restate, and I would appreciate the facial. Please.
I'm just like, I have to point that out.
Thank you. So Eberhard and Mackey is a law firm, and that's not giving workshops in board governance. At least I have never heard that that is what their number one job is. I do know that John Carver's group, Policy Governance and Coherent Governance, that's all they do. And they do it for the best school districts, some of the best school districts in the country that run really well in very difficult circumstances. School districts that run the gamut from small to huge. They do it. They've done it for Fairfax, which is 183,000 students. They've done it for Aspen. So what I think that I'm asking for, I'm not disparaging Eberhard and Mackey's knowledge of governance. What I am is saying there are certain aspects of giving a seminar that if you've done it a whole bunch of times and you know the problems that are going to come up, and that's your one area of expertise, that you're the best. And you have a proven track record. And I'd like to hear from that kind of person.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. My commentary is strictly based upon the fact that you nominated somebody for the board legal counsel who you then later in the conversation say they don't have a sense of governance, and we are
I
governance.
didn't say that.
You did. You said that they would not, they didn't have the expertise in governance. I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
I'm for
may
the
I,
other group. Play it back.
May look, what I wanted, what I, you can try and hang me on some words, but I'm trying to clarify what I meant. What I meant was their expertise is in the law. It's not in providing governance seminars. There are other areas that have expertise in providing governance seminars. That's
Okay.
who we should be going to.
I agree
I'm
with
sorry
that.
if I
agree,
did not
I agree with
okay.
that part. I absolutely agree with that part.
Okay,
But
I
it-
think we'll bring the conversation back around to the item on the agenda about the code of ethics, rather than
Okay.
a disagreement on legal things. So do I hear a motion for the code of ethics?
I would like to make a motion just to table the code of, approving the code of ethics until we can have our meeting discussing all of that.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 3-1. We'll go ahead and table that at this time. All right, brings us to the last item of the annual meeting. Do I hear a motion to adjourn the annual meeting?
I'll make that motion.
All second. Discussion. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 3-0. I didn't hear a fourth vote, so
Sorry. Aye.
with that, I'll go ahead and move on to the regular July school board meeting. Call to order and welcome everybody once again. And we'll go ahead and continue on with item number 2 on the agenda. Any additions, corrections, modifications, or substitutions to the current agenda? And as of now, I believe there are 1.
So I'd like to ask the board to modify the location of an item that's already on the agenda. So the public and the board has already received notice of this agenda item. Agenda item 9A2, so this is under the consent agenda, and it's for the application of study travel by a student group. We'd like to move it out of the consent agenda to action item H so that the board can discuss the ratio of students to chaperones.
Any further additions, modifications? Do I hear a motion to accept the proposed modification?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? I'll go ahead and second. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the modification? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That will now be item H under the decisions portion of the agenda. All right, and we'll go ahead and turn the time over to Dr. Holmes for the accolades.
Okay, we have 2 accolades tonight. The first one is for Paul Zimmerman. I haven't seen him, and he's so tall. Usually you could see him. No. We're working him really hard this summer in getting all the technology upgraded. This is Dear School Board. When Paul Zimmerman left my class this morning, he left me no choice but to write an accolade for him. Simply no choice. He had just finished teaching a class consisting of 4th graders, my principal, Mr. Hazley, and me, about 3D printing. The class came about because Paul is in the process of determining which 3D printers the district should get for the elementary engineering technology programs in each school. He was so excited, as Paul usually is, that he asked if he could come to each of our classes to give a demonstration. He had the kids mesmerized from the second they walked in, and this was the last week of school. Not an easy feat. His infectious enthusiasm immediately rubbed off on the kids as he led a discussion of what 3D printers can do and how they can solve problems for the kids in life. It was then time for the printer to be put to use, and with kids all watching, it promptly jammed. Paul used this time not to get frustrated, but to discuss with the kids just how you handle tough situations calmly and thoughtfully. He then proceeded to teach us all how to clear a jam. It was during this time that I wondered if Paul has a teaching degree, which led to another thought.
The plane that Paul operates on as a teacher is above almost anyone I've seen. Yes, he's that good. This has all happened before we even saw the final printed products, which were pretty incredible. After keeping the kids and me enthralled, even through 10 minutes of printing, it was reluctantly time to go. With a wave, Mr. Paul Zimmerman picked up his 3D printer and walked down the hall. Besides being overly excited to use the 3D printer next year and having a much better understanding of them, I was left in awe of that a person could be that skilled and that good at teaching. If an employee could get a double contract, Paul needs one. This is an employee we need to keep at BCSD for a long time. Submitted by Scott Slonim. And just as a note, you guys at the last board meeting approved the purchase of 3D printers as part of the technology engineering upgrade in our schools all the way K through 12. So thank you very much. Second accolade tonight is for the Wood River Middle School staff. Do we have any middle school staff here? Okay, they're all out on the trail, and we wish we were too. Dear Wood River Middle School staff, there is not enough kind words out there to describe how wonderful these past 3 years have been for Emma. She's happy, she has blossomed, and she has learned so much. Sam and I cannot be more grateful to each and every one of you. We miss you all. We will miss you all so much. We are confident that she will be successful at the high school because you have taught compassion and kindness to her classmates, and we know they will be there for her. Emma is so fortunate to have, and to continue to have, all of you in her life. Have a wonderful summer, and thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Submitted by Marie, Emma's mother.
All right. Okay, we'll go ahead and continue on with our public comment portion of the agenda. And as of now, I've received 3, and we'll go ahead and start with Ms. Teresa Gregory.
We are a compassionate community. We show this by our willingness to live as neighbors to one another. In the tragedies of these past several weeks, which have affected many communities and people, gay, straight, black, white, Latino, civilians, and those in law enforcement and emergency services, we have been faced with the decision, are we neighbors or will we live estranged from one another? Neighbors help one another, protect and support one another, stand with one another, meet challenges together with creativity and strength. At times, neighbors will shield one another with their bodies, risk their own lives so that others will live. We grieve together and we live on. Today, across our nation, small towns just like ourselves are showing this kind of compassion. And especially today, we join them in showing compassion and our willingness to be neighbors to those in our communities who are transgender. How are we neighbors and not strangers? Our moment now is filled with potential for creativity. We have an amazing amount of work to do, and we will do that together. We are excited to invest our time and energy in developing protocols and procedures to engage staff, students, faculty, and families around how to be fully inclusive of our transgender students. Yes, there will be obstacles and challenges. Some will express quite differing views on this issue, but we are neighbors, not strangers. I ask that you adopt the policy on transgendered and gender nonconforming students today, and then let's be about the work ahead together. Sincerely, Teresa.
Thank you very much. Next up, Amber Rose Parainen.
Evening. I'm Amber Kiernan. So last month when we discussed this policy, I was disturbed by a few comments. The comments that talked about parents not wanting their children exposed to parts of genders that they weren't on. Let me read this, I'm sorry. I don't want children being exposed to parts outside their assigned gender. Now, there should be an investigation if these parents went to schools where they were being exposed to other students. Because I had PE for 12 years of school, and I never once was exposed to anyone else's private parts. So I don't think Blaine County has an issue with flashing or exposure. So I don't see that being a problem here. Blaine County School District has had some suicide problems, though. Unhappy students. And that's an issue. I went to a very big high school, and nobody killed themselves. So it's sad in a small community that a small high school, we're seeing children kill themselves. So maybe you as a board should start talking about the students more rather than the politics of each other. And compromise with each other and support each other. I know you guys have your hands full, and trusting each other and not researching every little thing, but dividing your responsibilities would go a long way. And don't forget the students. Okay, so say you don't pass the policy and my son has to return to a girl's bathroom. You're going to have a depressed 8-year-old. Somebody who is embarrassed. And then politics in the classroom, because peers are going to know, hey, this is my friend. He's a boy, but he's being forced into the girls' room. That's going to cause a lot more alarm and a lot more questions than just allowing a child who identifies as a boy to go to the boys' restroom or locker room. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next up, Shannon Robertson.
Evening. I'm Shannon Robertson, and previously I've spoken about my experiences as a non-gender binary transgender student. And tonight I'd like to focus on when the policy is passed, because it may not be tonight or the next time it's discussed, but eventually change will come, and there's plenty of time to wordsmith this document, but in that time the issues will not change. Though I won't be walking through a Blaine County school this fall, I identify with those who will. I know the bitter aftertaste of going into the biologically correct, emotionally incorrect bathroom, because that's what every day is, accommodating those who don't or won't understand us. We're here. I'm here because I have tons of support. I've heard it's a phase, or being transgender is a disease. And to that I say, I hear your intent to protect and teach, but I also challenge it saying this. If I feel badly enough to kill myself because of your benevolent intentions, are they benevolent? I hear your concerns, and even if this is a phase, it keeps me from the brink of suicide for a year. Is it worth it to treat me like I want to be treated? Illnesses aren't all curable. HIV isn't curable. And so what do doctors do? They try to make the person's quality of life better. And if being transgender is an illness, then treat it like one and do what you can to help the patient feel better. I don't believe it's an illness, but if it were, it wouldn't have a cure. And as a board representing so many students, it is important to acknowledge the whole school's needs. As part of the transgender community, I'm well aware of the fact that we are not the majority, but we are here. And after years of tolerating bigotry and compromising our comfort for those unwilling to hear us, we'd really like to see a change.
Thank you for your comments. All right, that's all we've received up to this point, and we'll go ahead and continue on with Superintendent report by Dr. Holmes.
I'm going to cede my time tonight to Mr. Jason Fry from the YMCA so he can share with you some more information about the Power Scholars program that they are partnering with us and helping make sure that our elementary students get a summer experience that would not get one otherwise. But before he starts, I want to, is it the 22nd? Do I have the right date? 22nd when you're going fishing, July 22nd? If any of you would like to help 60-plus Power Scholars fish on July 22nd, we're looking for helpers. So just let us know. We'll sign you up. We'll get you out there fishing with those kiddos, and hopefully none of us will be hooked because we will have enough adults to help them. So,
Thank
take
you
it away.
for the advertisement, Dr. Holmes, and thank you for the time tonight, and thank you, Board of Trustees, for taking the time to listen to this presentation tonight. I realize that I have a limited scope of time, so I'm going to race through some of these things, and I'd like to share about a 2-minute video with you as well regarding the achievement gap. But first, I'll start with actually just start by saying what a pleasure it's been for us as the Y to work with an incredible staff team that you all have, led by Dr. Holmes, and folks such as John Blackman and Angie Martinez, and Aaron Bronson in particular has been a standout and a superstar in our programs and all of our partnerships. So we thank you for working with us across the board. And then I just want to introduce Teresa Johnson, who is the Y's Youth Director of Youth Development. She's back there, and she is really heading up a lot of these partnerships on our behalf. So thank you for allowing that time and allowing those partnerships. Just a quick overview to give you an update on where we are with the Y. We have about 4,600 plus members, over 3,000 programs annually, over 120 staff, and over 800 volunteer hours that we log on an annual basis. So we have become a significant organization that's creating impact in the community, not just in Ketchum, but certainly throughout the community. These are our existing partnerships with the district, starting way back in 2004 with Y on Wheels. Our Make a Splash is Learn to Swim for the 2nd grade. We're now reaching every 2nd grade of every school, public and private, with the exception of Cary, and we're still working on getting Cary in here. We have a Kids Club after school site at Ketchum, Haley, and Bellevue, and then this year we just started the Y Achievers program, which is a teen or a teen support program. It's academic, it's social. It's starting to work with the kids who are in the GRIT program from Mrs. Sewell at the high school, so that's another great partnership. But the focus of tonight that I wanted to share was really about the achievement gap, and I know that you all are aware of this. I'm just going to highlight a few things here. That in Idaho, 44% of kids are not ready for kindergarten, 67% of 4th graders not reading at grade level, and that we're considered last in many publications in students who go on to college. Now, those results are obviously Idaho-wide. They're not just our district, so our district, I think, excels in some of these areas based relative to the rest of the state. Beyond this, switch over, please. A quick introduction, and this is actually done by NBC News, and it's more explanation.
Let's look at 2 children, one from a middle-income family, the other from one of the millions of low-income American families. As the 2 kids head off to kindergarten, look what happens. The middle-income child starts out with a 6-month lead. The low-income child is already falling behind because of a lack of access to early reading and preschool education. During their year in kindergarten, in the same school and classroom, the 2 children will learn at about the same rate, so we'll move them both forward 9 months. But look what happens in that first summer between kindergarten and 1st grade. Our middle-income child moves ahead about a month in reading because learning of one kind or another continues over the summer. The low-income child falls back about 2 months. So when school begins again, when they go back for 1st grade, the gap between them has already widened. During 1st grade, again, they move ahead at about the same rate, another 9 months. That next summer, the activities and lifestyle of the middle-income family keep that child moving forward, but the low-income child has fewer opportunities to reinforce good habits like reading, and that child falls farther behind. Then we come to 2nd grade, and again, our 2 children learn at the same rate. But the summer after 2nd grade sets our low-income child back again, and our middle-income child moves forward again, and the gap widens again. By just the 3rd grade, the 2 children are already far apart. By the end of 5th grade, the gap between the children is 2.5 to 3 years. It will keep growing through middle school. So you see, without addressing what's happening during the summer, it is impossible to ever catch up. It's impossible to close the gap. No matter how much high-quality learning goes on from September to June, every year the gap widens.
So a pretty powerful depiction on what the achievement gap is, and that's nationwide. And we have our own achievement gap here in Blaine County, and these are the stats that come, the most recent statistics based on ISATs of 2014-2015. This is broken down by economically disadvantaged and non-disadvantaged in literacy. So you can see that in third grade, these are proficient scores here. So our economically disadvantaged third graders, only 20, not even a third, are scoring proficient level, whereas our non-disadvantaged students in the district are scoring almost two-thirds, a 40% gap. I mean, these are significant gaps in grades 3 through 5, and they persist through middle school and high school as well, but I did not share those in this presentation. The next slide is math, and you can see the gap continues. It's over 30% in each of those grades in the district. So what we are trying to do, and you may ask, and several people have asked, why is the Y even involved with this? Well, nationally, the Y is probably the place where most kids collectively are during out-of-school time. Schools do a pretty darn good job educating kids, but we also recognize that we can't do this alone. Schools can't be responsible or shoulder that whole burden. Communities have to take ownership of that as well. The Y, being in over 10,000 communities in the country, have worked with agencies to be able to create programs that they're able to scale on a national basis that are proven, that are tested, and that are empirically evidenced. So one example of that is this Power Scholars Academy. And we were fortunate enough, our Y was fortunate enough to earn a grant from the Y of the USA this year, so we were able to help fund a portion of this program for 1 year. And this came upon us pretty quickly. And in some meetings with Dr. Holmes and the staff, we were looking at, of course, budget cuts in the district this year, and summer was one of those items that looked like the result may be uncertain as to what might happen with summer programming. We felt it paramount to be able to step in and try to offer a solution for the summer, and especially for the kids who need it most in the Valley and who need that support. So Power Scholars Academy is a program that's developed nationally by Bell Academy. Bell is Building Educated Leaders for Life, and they're a nonprofit out of Boston. They've partnered with Y of the USA, and they're scaling this program in about 46 states right now. And I'm not sure exactly how many programs, but we're the second in Idaho. Boise started one last year with the Boise School District. So the program, you can see here, this is the basic element. It's a 5 to 6 week program. Ours is a 6-week program. We're in our 3rd week this year. We're at Alturas Elementary School. We have 65 second and third graders, and we worked with the district to identify at each elementary school kids in need based on teacher recommendations, social worker recommendations, and principal recommendations. And the turnout that we received, we sent out, I believe, about 138 invitations. And the invitations to this aren't the traditional summer school, hey, you're not achieving, so we need to get you into summer school. The invitations were actually these golden tickets that say, congratulations, your child has been selected as a scholar to attend this year's academy during the summer. So may I pass these out? So imagine as a parent receiving receiving one of these golden tickets. Oh, did you not get one?
No, I got one in Spanish.
That's right.
Spanish.
So imagine as a parent receiving one of these and not having child care set up or not having summer camp set up for your child, and the gift that this becomes, being that it's a free program for these students. So you can see the structure is Monday through Friday. In the morning, we have breakfast and community time. Then there is literacy and math, and this is a set curriculum that Bell provides us. There's lunch provided and recreation, and then there's afternoon enrichment. And the enrichment project that our scholars are working on this year is to work with the Weekly Sun to publish a kid's guide to the Valley, so activities in the Valley. So these second and third graders will be taking field trips on Fridays and visiting such places as Hayspur for fishing and the ice caves and craters, and writing up reports on these local areas that they may visit. So a great project-based learning experience for them as well. This is really an example nationally of how school districts, YMCAs, and then this Bell organization are mobilizing summer learning and trying to address this achievement gap. We're also trying to involve parents in children's education, and we've had some involvement through the program with parents as well to help them understand the importance of getting their kids to school. There is an attendance requirement. In fact, we had to turn some kids away because they weren't able to attend the full 6 weeks, and we know that the impact comes through attendance. So these are the uncommon results that in the years prior to this year's pilot in the district here, this program has seen. Serving grades 2 through 4, average daily attendance of 84%. You can see the average grade equivalent reading gain is 3 months and math gain of 2 months in the program. 88% of the teachers reporting that scholars increase their self-confidence, and 100%, you never get that, 100% of parents say that the scholars enjoyed their experience. That's the biggest thing. They're enjoying learning. And so we're trying to create a different atmosphere of learning in the classroom. Right now, we have 10 total staff. We have 2 people per classroom. 4 of our staff are current Blaine County teachers, and 6 are certified teachers. So it does require that we have a certified teacher for the morning part, the math and literacy. This is just another graph depicting some of the average gains in math and reading. Over the summer, you can see the bottom bar there. That's the gap. That's the loss that occurs. That's the summer slide, an average of 2 months in literacy and math skills for disadvantaged students. So I just wanted to share with you some key dates. On July 25th and 27th, you can have a chance to visit the program. We'll have lunch for you on July 25th. That's a Monday. And then we'll have breakfast July 27th. That's a Wednesday. We'll also do a program explanation, a little briefing, and a tour. On August 3rd, that will be the project exhibition. Parents will be invited, but we're also inviting the public to see the work that the kids have done from 5:30 to 7. And then on August 5th, that's their last day. That's a Friday, and that is their graduation ceremony. So that will be 6 weeks of program. We did test all of the students with a STAR assessment in the first week so that we have a baseline of where they start the program, and then we'll test them out. I believe it's August 4th. We'll test them out with another STAR assessment so that we'll have data to look at, so we'll know actually what their performance indicators will look like. And this is just a slide saying that collective impact, I mean, this is the trend of school districts working with YMCAs, hospitals working with Ys, and not just with Ys, but organizations have to work together. And again, I want to reiterate that in our experience through the Y and through our programming, I just want to underscore how critical it has been that we've had the support of your leadership on staff and some great staff to work with as well. So thank you very much, and if you have questions, I can take a couple of those.
Open it up to the board for questions at this time.
Thanks for taking this on. I think that we've experienced in our budgetary conversations the lack and loss of summer school and that kind of thing. And I think you stepping in and supplementing what the district offers with this program is tremendous. And it seems like the results that you're experiencing are better than expected, to say the least, right?
Thank you.
So thank you.
We hope they are.
And it seems like the cost to the participants is excellent. So,
yeah, hard to argue that.
As low as it gets.
Yes, it's a great value.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Trustee Corker?
I have just a couple of questions. Where does this happen? Where is it?
Alturas.
Okay. And how many, you probably said this, but I didn't make a note of it. How many students?
We have 65 currently.
Okay.
The program, we had an allotment for a sort of a mini program this year. There's a full-fledged program that we could apply to run in future years, and that would be 120 students.
Okay.
In your capture, I'd like to actually follow up on that question. Your capture, you gave out 120 invites and you received 60 participants out of the 120 invites.
138 invites, and we had 66, and I think we're down to 65.
Okay, so you went pretty wide on your invitation list.
Yeah, I don't have the exact stats from Ketchum to Cary, but there is representation from every single elementary school.
Trustee Corker.
I just had a list of questions here. So what was the criterion for you to extend an invitation?
That was determined by the school district. We focused on second and third graders, and we worked with staff to identify, and we worked with each school specifically to identify kids who may be lagging in performance, but that wasn't the specific criteria. It may be a kid who they know has a special family situation where they don't have activities for the summer, or they need just a little extra guidance or social support. So it was pretty broadly defined, but we feel like we were able to get a good crew in there, and 72% of those kids who are in the program are actually economically disadvantaged students.
Okay. And how are, for example, the kids from the north getting down? Say their parents are both working. How does that happen?
So the district is providing transportation. They are providing the site at Alturas, and they are providing the food through the summer food program, breakfast and lunch.
Okay. And what are the hours?
It is 8:30. Help me there.
8:30 to 3:30.
Okay. I would request that you send that PowerPoint to the board. I'd like to see it. It would just help refresh me. Great. That's great. And then the cost of this is to the school district is how much?
I don't know the exact cost for transportation and food and building.
We are paying. Mic on. We are paying for the transportation. Food comes through the federally subsidized program, so there's not much cost there, and we are providing the building. So, and I just want to say, while I have this moment, we've done summer programming ourselves in the past. We've done 4 weeks of half days, and then last year we tried 2 weeks of full days, so this is extensively more than we were providing with our budget. So this is like, I say they've won the lottery, but golden ticket, whatever you want to use, it's yeah.
And the cost to the Y is about $1,000 per student, per scholar.
Okay, so you have 65 currently, so that would be about $65,000.
Right.
Okay, there was a couple. So it lasts for how many weeks?
6.
6. Okay, and then if the program tours, are we going to hear about that? So we were given a reminder. That would be so nice.
Yeah, I think we can.
Okay.
And we can make note to put out a reminder.
Okay. And then how much did the summer school cost before this? So how much are we saving?
Our total summer school, I'm really stretching here. I think was about it was over $100,000. But Val, do you know, or should we research that and send it to them in there? We'll research that and send that to you in the Friday update. But our total summer school cost was considerably more than this. And I know my first year here, just to kind of illustrate some of the summer school difficulties we had, I arrived in July and went over to summer school thinking I was going to meet some of our teachers. The vast majority of the teachers working the program were not ours. So we have a really hard time getting our teachers to teach in the summer. This is a great place to play in the summer, and that's what they're wanting to do. So they were out-of-state teachers that weren't even familiar with Idaho standards. So that last year we shortened it to be 2 weeks, hoping we could get our own staff to do it for 2 weeks if we did it all day, which we did. However, still many of them were not elementary teachers. We had some middle school teachers that were in there who, once again, aren't very familiar with the standards for those grade levels because that's not their normal assignment type of thing. So one of the things that I think is great with this program is not only are they requiring certified teachers, but they have a very carefully crafted curriculum. So they're not having to make this up on the fly like we have had to do in past years as we put our own program together. So it's more extensive, it's more structured, and we've got great teachers in there. But our Idaho teachers.
So how many kids used to be covered by summer school before this?
Do you have an idea, Angie, or we'll need to research that, or? Okay.
I'm just curious because it's second and third grade. Did summer school used to extend for a lot of grades, or?
This is just the
Like last
elementary
year.
program, right? We've still got a very basic middle school and high school program for kids who need credit recovery only, kids who are not going to graduate without some help going on. I know last year when I was visiting summer school, I don't think it was any more classrooms than we have this year, but we'll look that up and see how many kids were in last year's program.
Right, the per pupil cost. I think it sounds great. I'm just trying to get my mind around it. And there's been a lot of questions about what is going on with summer school. Teachers have come up repeatedly to me and said, what are you doing? Why did you do that? So I haven't had a good answer for that. And as I understand, you said they're all certified. I heard you say that out of the 10 staff, 6 are certified.
Correct.
Every classroom has a certified teacher plus a non.
Okay, and how many classrooms are there?
There's 3 right now.
Okay, with 65 kids?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. As I said, I've been asked a lot of questions about this by teachers, so I'm glad to be able to get some detail. Thank you.
I'd just like to point out and say one of the really key points that you brought up in one of your slides, schools can't do it alone. We recognize that. I agree. I feel we do a pretty good job, but I'm ecstatic about these partnerships, these relationships, to where we're not focusing just one person. I think the more people we can get to help our kids learn, more adult interaction, I think it's nothing but positive for our students, so I appreciate that.
I have one more. The enrichment piece is, to me, the best part, because to put a kid in a classroom or in front of a computer on a beautiful summer day, that's punishment. That's not learning.
They will do. That is a fun project, and the Weekly Sun is working closely with us to help on that. But even the literacy component, a lot of their classrooms, they're going outside, and they're using the outside for that. So it's not like a normal day during the school year.
Great.
Yep.
Perfect.
Great. Thank you.
I just have one quick question. Is the Y considering doing this for next year as well?
I think we definitely would. I mean, we're anxious to see what the results will be, and we're all very optimistic that we're going to have great results. I think we don't have a recurring grant from YUSA next year, and so we're going to need to look at sustainability in this. And I think there are some options that we can look at. We're doing private fundraising, of course, but I think there are some grants that we can look at, like a 21st Century Learning grant that we could collectively apply for with the school district, and I think we have a pretty good shot at it.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to know about that. Thank you.
Yeah, we don't want to be a one and done.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. All right. As far as announcements, we have Thursday, July 28th, from 1 to 6 over in Boise. There is an Idaho State School Boards Association Summer Leadership Institute. To my knowledge, we don't have anybody from our board signed up. I unfortunately will not be able to make it, but I would encourage board members to try and make that training. The Idaho State School Boards Association does an excellent job in their trainings. We also have Tuesday, August 16th at 2016. We have our regular August board meeting. Mentioned the Summer Leadership Institute already. And then I wanted to touch on the board self-assessment a little bit. And each one of our board members filled this out and got it back to Ms. LaChance, and she went ahead and averaged them on a scale of 1 to 3 on all these different areas. And just my initial looks in going over this and in trying to use this in preparation for hopefully an upcoming board retreat as far as training on governance and different things like this. It's very apparent to me that we've got our work cut out for us as a board. If you take a look at TUA's satisfactory, there's not very many areas where we as a board collectively feel that we're reaching that. I feel that we definitely have room for improvement, and this will be a good baseline for us collectively as a board as we move forward, trying to better ourselves in both our training, understanding, in our roles and responsibilities, and in our communication with each other, in our interactions with our staff and with our community. I think we've got tremendous opportunity for growth. I'll put it that way. So I appreciate all the board members for taking time to fill that out, and would ask that we all try and work together, trying to improve these. Not throw blame one side or the other, and really dig in and work together with administration on solving these problems. I think it behooves us as board members in order to continue to provide a great education for our students, to really dig in and do the best that we as individual board members can do, and as a collective board. So with that, are there any questions, comments about that aspect of the self-evaluation?
I just want to review it a little more, but I appreciate the process. I'm glad we were able to do it, and I think it does lend itself to, for sure, developing a plan or retreat process for us in terms of governance, in terms of what our role is. Everything's there that we need as a group to really solidify on and understand clearly. And our shortfalls are pretty well mapped out, and I'd say we got a lot of shortfalls. So as you reiterate what you said, there's a lot of room for improvement based upon the scores we've given ourselves. So, good process.
Okay. If there's nothing further, we'll go ahead and continue on with the agenda with discussion items and open it up with A1, Board Legal Counsel. And Trustee Clayton, I believe this is something that you requested to be on the agenda.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring that back on because we amended the agenda for that last time, and I'm like, okay, I'm not really sure on agenda amending and that kind of thing. It was like, the sky wasn't falling, we weren't in crisis, there was no building that needed immediate repair or some catastrophe with students. So we pushed that through, and I'm like, what are we talking about? And I got kind of lost on that. So I just asked for it to be back on here to get a clearer understanding of what we were getting into, what the necessity is, if it really is a necessary action, because I was very unclear. I mean, I voted for it to be amended onto the agenda, but it probably should have had, in my opinion, a little more like lead time to it, because it was, it's a cost incurred. It's a new thing. We have service from this group already, so I just want a little more clarity on it. That's why I asked for it to be reintroduced. So, do we have any more clarity on it?
What exactly are you asking about?
We wanted to retain. You made a motion to retain the Eberhard and Mackey legal group, right? And and we said, okay, we'll do it. Sure. I think I actually ended up abstaining or something. I don't know, but it was like, I just want to know what the necessity is, what the parameters are, what the accessibility protocols are, like what is this?
What is the need?
Well, not so much the need could be there. What is the definition of the process, and how this is something that we need to add, and why do we need to add it, and where are we going to add it, and how are we adding it, and all of those things. I have a question there.
Right. I don't think it's that complicated. Each board member needs to have access to legal counsel. Right now, the way that the contract with Mr. King is written, it goes through the board chair and 3 members of the staff. So I can't call up and ask for representation by Mr. King. It's got to go through a channel. That was never the case in the past. If I needed an opinion, and it happens quite often, I was able to call up counsel and get an opinion. And often and this happened with previous board members, they saw a need for legal counsel when other board members did not. So if you had a board member that saw a need for legal counsel and the chair does not, that creates a problem because board members who need to represent constituents don't have access. The motion that was made provides that. In addition, it provides it for a group or a legal firm that seemed to be very unbiased, that's held in high regard. So that was very important to me as a board member to have that possibility. And so you asked, I think, for the hourly cost, and it's $170 for an hourly cost. And that's less than we're paying. So I don't know if there's anything else.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
I had no idea what it was.
Yeah.
So going back to your comment, I missed that memo, I guess, about having to run legal questions through, so maybe I have a fault, because I will call Adam with questions of legality at any time, and he answers them for me. I mean, I'm fine with another company doing that, too. I didn't know that was, is that truly, am I screwing up? Like, by calling Adam up directly? Is that improper?
Mr. King. Typically what happens historically is that if a board member has contacted me and it seems to be something where there's going to be significant time incurred, then I'll go to Sean, to the chair, or I'll go to the superintendent and say, this is a valid legal issue. And that's always been the case. And typically, if Rob has called me, I don't think I've even usually billed for it. It's usually been a question about procedure or verifying something about the open meetings laws. So, yeah, I'm always available.
Dr. Holmes.
In my experience at other places where I work, it typically does go through the board chair or the superintendent just because of the fact that they sign off on the bills. Not for restricting anybody, but just for signing off on the bills.
I'll be a little better in my notification that I'm calling him.
Well, as Mr. King said, if it's an issue that's going to be of any considerable amount of work, he's going to, so that we can control it.
He'll let you know he's starting the meter before he starts the meeting. Got it.
Well, what I would typically do is go to the appropriate person and say, Trustee X has raised an issue, and this either is, if it's easy to just dispose of, just there's a simple answer in the code or whatever, that's what I typically do. If it's going to need some research or an opinion or something like that, then I'll go to the chair or to the superintendent.
Trustee Corker.
So, this is supposed to be the board council, and the way that the contract reads, the independent contractor shall perform legal services for PCSD on as needed, as requested basis. The superintendent, assistant superintendent, chairman of the board of trustees, business manager, and any of their designees can request legal services. So,
does it exclude us in that language, or?
I haven't been named a designee. I have not. This is just something new. We used to always be able to, and I remember when Catherine had a question about something, she called up and got a direct answer that was disagreed with a legal decision that we had been given before, and she felt very happy to be able to have that access to the best legal representation so that she could get the best answer she thought she could get. So that's why I'm bringing it up, and that's why I worded that motion the way I worded it.
Okay. Have you had contact? Are they willing to do it? Do we know that? Have you called them, or is it?
Well, I called her to get all the information, and she said certainly that they were available, and she sent me some emails about it that are in here somewhere, and I can forward those to you. They're back here somewhere. Probably a month ago she sent that to me, but I can send that to you. It's like I said, it was $170. And I took notes, and she said she reviews decisions. When there's questions, she's right there. She's the right-hand person. I think that's what's happened over the years is she's had to delegate because they've had a lot of business, and so she's delegated some of the grunt work, is what it sounded like.
Well, thanks for doing that,
Sure.
because we approved it anyways. I mean, this is just a clarification for me, really,
Sure.
more than anything. I don't want to revisit the question or
Right.
re-vote or anything like that. I just wanted to know what
Yeah.
what it was, right?
Yeah, and, you know, obviously, nobody's going to abuse it. Nobody really wants to be talking to lawyers any more than they have to.
Yeah,
So-
I would still just ask anyone who does use it, make sure to let the district know. That way they can know to expect a bill and be looking for that and not be surprised when that comes
Sure.
and have to retroactively go back and search out what the cause was.
Okay. Thank you.
So, all right, on to item number 2, draft policy 502.12, transgender and gender nonconforming students. We were introduced this policy at our last regular board meeting. Heard a lot of public comment on it. And I felt that it needed additional discussion by our board prior to having it on the action item, as is typical in our history. So I'd like to go ahead and open that up for any discussion, questions at this point in time. Trustee Corker, you mentioned that you had been contacted by a former trustee here in Black County School District. She contacted me as well, Kathy Baker, now Kathy Stender.
Yes.
And had some definite insights and some very thought-provoking ways of looking at this policy, which goes back to a couple of our comments a little bit about really protecting all of our students, not just trying to limit it to a certain and pointing out a certain class of students, but really opening it up to a broader conversation and talking about the protection of all of our students. And would you like to go ahead and discuss some of those options?
You know, I feel like I don't have a complete and full understanding, and so maybe together in that conversation we can kind of fill in the gaps. But my general understanding of the way, it's called Virginia Public Schools, but it's actually Virginia, Minnesota Public Schools, and it happens to be where Kathy Baker ended up, and she ended up marrying the superintendent there. And they were one of the first school districts in the country, even though they're not that big, to be presented with this issue with a transgender student. And they researched, as I understand it, they researched it. They knew what was going on nationally, but they found kind of a way that it could take it off of being divisive and make it into a topic, and it came naturally, about about safety for all students, transgender, non-transgender, and about privacy issues for all students. And when Kathy explained this to me, the way I got my head around it was that when you are a student in high school or middle school or wherever, a lot of kids have issues around their body and around locker room, and it's very stressful. So why aren't we providing privacy to students that we would provide to adults, for example, at the YMCA or at Blaine County Rec or at Xynergy, where people have private places to be able to change? And so their policy starts out, which is they also looked at, and I'm forgetting the name of the organization, and I really don't want to get it wrong, but I want to say the American Association of Pediatric Doctors, or the
not the same one that was referenced to last month.
I know, yeah, and I really wanted to get that right. And they interfaced with them a lot about this policy and about the terminology that was used, and got it very straight, because there's a lot more terminology than I had ever imagined around this issue. So they dealt with all that, and it starts out, the purpose, I think, is really sets the tone. All students need a safe, supportive school environment to progress academically and developmentally. The purpose of this policy is to facilitate compliance with applicable laws and organizational guidelines, as well as to foster an educational environment at Virginia Public Schools that is safe, supportive, and fully inclusive for all students, regardless of gender identity or gender expression. So whether it is the transgender student or the non-transgender student, neither student should feel like there's an invasion of their privacy. And this does that. And the way that I understand that it does that is that you have to accommodate your buildings to be able to provide more privacy, which Virginia, Minnesota did do. And it looks like they're ahead of what's coming down the pike, or what may be already down the pike, I don't know, in certain school districts in terms of how you configure your locker rooms. So at any rate, that was my understanding. I don't know if you want to...
No, I would tend to agree with what's been said. In my conversations with Kathy, it was very, or former trustee Baker, it was very cut and dry as far as we're really concerned not about a certain protecting the rights of just a certain group, but really about the protection of all students. Whether, I mean, let's face it, kids hit puberty at different times. Some hit it sooner, some hit it later. We come in all different shapes and sizes. And the changes in our kids' bodies can be, they feel very self-conscious of that, whether they're a non-transgender student or whether they're a transgender student. And I think we really need to open up the conversation to how do we protect all of our students? How do we make sure all of our students feel comfortable? Yeah, I'll go ahead and leave it at that. I personally did not have time to go through in detail the draft policy with my work schedule. But after speaking with Kathy, I wanted to bring it out in front of our board, give us an opportunity to look at it, to think about it. And then I know it's on the agenda for later on under decisions, but I think it's a decision, as you mentioned before, that I don't think we want to rush things too quickly, but yet give the proper due diligence so we can make the best decision we can for all of our students. Trustee Corker.
You know, when I was talking to Kathy, I started to realize it wasn't so much the what and the definitions and the legalese. It was how it was going to be implemented. And that's where the rubber met the road, and that's where the real thinking had to occur. And it seems like they've done that in a way that makes everyone happy. And so I would really like for our community to be able to read what they've done and see if it conforms and see if everyone, it's acceptable to everyone. So I think that there's a learning process that's going to happen here for all of us.
Yeah. And by bringing these items into our meeting and Ms. LaChance forwarding them to the board today, I think that will preclude them up to an open public document where we can get it out to the entire community. After speaking with Kathy, I did reach out to Dr. Holmes about the feasibility and what we could do with our current buildings. And I know she's had conversations with Mr. Royal about some of those spaces and options. So I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but I also asked Dr. Holmes to kind of look into those implications as well a little bit. Dr. Holmes.
Yeah, Mr. Royal and I have had some conversations, and if you want to chime in, come on up. On especially starting with our secondary schools, our middle schools, and our high school, because of the fact that there's locker rooms and stuff there. How do we provide more privacy for all of our students in these spaces? But I also would say, since we just received these actual documents this afternoon, I would agree with Trustee Corker that we need to put these. Well, first of all, we need to have Mr. King go through them and get them to line up with Idaho law instead of Minnesota law, because they came in late this afternoon. And then to make sure that they are out there for the public, because this would be, again, we don't want to do this rushing through agenda items when the public has not had ample time to see and respond as well. So do you want to talk to us real quick about modifying locker rooms so that there's privacy for all?
Sure. Well, some of the schools lend themselves better than others to modification. So what we'd have to do is go through each building and see what it would take to modify that, and then the amount of modification also. I mean, I would love to see what they've done there just to go forward. But I would like to see how other people are successful doing this. I don't want to have to do it more than once, and I certainly think we need to make a solid effort to do this, and to make sure that everybody is comfortable with the way that the rooms are put together. But some of the older buildings probably lend themselves a little less to this carry, the downstairs, obviously. But I think there's always a way to do this. So we can do this.
So as we further our discussions and further our guidance to staff on any decisions, then we can have better cost associations and implications of that. Dr. Holmes.
I just want to add, too, so for anybody who's feeling stressed at the moment over this discussion lingering on, that in looking at this very quickly this afternoon, because it came in really late before today's board meeting, it does have conversation in this sample policy here that students have the right to be addressed by the preferred name and pronoun corresponding to their gender identity. It talks about dress. It talks about efforts to prevent bullying and harassment. So I think it really does address many of the issues of the current draft policy that's in front of us, as well as dealing with issues other parents or students might be feeling like that their group was not identified in this policy for having protection as well. So, but I do want to say that just the first quick glance at it, it looks like we're not going backwards from the draft that's already on the table.
First, I want to thank Trustee Corker for doing this work. I'd done some investigation myself. Actually, my daughter was a tremendous resource in asking her just about some transgender issues, define this for me, give me some scope on how this all works, give me the definitions, talk to me about it. She was really helpful. And what I found, I did do some due diligence on this once I received it. I did a side-by-side, compare and contrast with what our policy was versus this policy. The depth of detail within this policy is significantly greater, the one provided by Trustee Corker. Just the definitions themselves, there's two definitions we don't even have that they used. One referring to assigned sex, which is baseline to me. We don't even have baseline defined, right? And then also gender transitioning, which is another thing, which is built into the policy as well, which is a significant concern too. So there's detail here that we don't have that probably is worth exploring, and then take it a step further to the deeper context of what is involved in it. It's something I would encourage us to seriously look at and implement and see what we can use from that, and not to kick the can down the road, because I'm really not a can kicker, but this is something that needs to happen. I'm fully in favor of addressing this issue and being supportive of it. I just want us to get it right. And I think this is a further step in getting it right and not being catch up or being behind, but at least being somewhat on the front edge or leading edge. So thank you.
Okay. Trustee Corker.
I just had a brief conversation with Kathy today, and she said that it was just a complete coincidence that they were on the forefront of this because of a student that came forth in a very, in a manner that required the school district to seriously look at this and create a policy about it. So they definitely are on the forefront, and the Darren Stender, who is the superintendent, apparently is now one of the experts in this, who's giving talks about how they handled it. There was one other quick thing that I was going to say about it in terms of, oh, I know. She said that there is it sounded like it was a couple minutes, it wasn't too long, that the American, and I'm going to get it wrong, I hope I don't get it wrong, the American Academy of Pediatrics, or whatever the the group is, has online that very clearly defines these terms, and she said that they used that at their board meeting, and it really helped the community to understand what all these terms meant and how they fit into the policy.
Okay. Further discussion?
I also heard from Kathy about this, and I felt that, it sounded like what they were doing was definitely leading the way. And I don't know if she had also mentioned like bathrooms, that, and not only locker rooms, but bathrooms as well. So in a way, it could be just unisex for everybody. So there was like, anybody could enter those bathrooms and have privacy. There's no looking underneath the stalls or anything like that. That those are some things that maybe we could consider as part of this process.
Yeah, I would not disagree. And just looking at our local climate as well, some of these issues tying to locker rooms hit close to home to us. And it's something that we really need to consider and take seriously. The implications and the liability that we as a district have, and the obligation that we as a district have to protect our students. Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and move forward with item number 3, the Idaho Juvenile Justice Association conferences in Boise, September 19th and 20th. And Trustee Corker, this is something that you requested it was on the agenda?
Oh, yes, thank you. This was a fantastic conference last year. I think that, John, you felt the same way. And Mike Glenn attended, our SROs attended. I think you found it worthwhile. A couple of other people, I know that Carol was there. I just thought it was really enlightening. Oh, I know, the other people who attended were Teresa Espedal and was Eric Thomas there, I can't remember. So there was kind of a nice mix of people who really all had the same purpose in mind, which was to support kids and to make sure that we're doing the right thing, not to have them just recirculate through the system again and again and again, but to make sure that they are on a track that gets them out of that judicial system and into recovery, or whatever. Prevention is what they call it here. So it's a one-day thing, and it was very inexpensive for what it was. Lots of law enforcement was there. So I would very much like to go, and I thought it would have been a great thing for our whole board to go, but I know we were all busy. But at any rate.
Yeah. I'm definitely open to board members attending this conference. I think the administration, if I understand correctly, instead of electing to attend the conference, I think they're going to bring in some training by some of the participants into the district. And if you could speak to that, Dr. Holmes.
Last year, in collaboration with the Blaine County Juvenile Probation, which we pay every year, a chunk of money from our budget for this collaboration, brought in Lee Nash from the University of Pennsylvania, who did 3 days of training with a couple of the days we had the vast majority of our social workers there, we had a lot of our district leaders there, and we had all of Silver Creek. And then on day 3, it was just the Silver Creek staff, because they have begun to implement circles in their building. And he will be coming back again this year to continue to work with Silver Creek. We had representation from Wood River High School there, as well as they're starting to learn about it. They're not near as far along in the process as Silver Creek. But so, yes, we have one of the experts from the original source actually coming in and training with our staff as well.
Could you let us know when that is? Because that would be very enlightening, I think.
Sure.
There was also Judge Teskey was his name, and I thought that Teresa was going to try and get him in here, because he has radically changed what's going on in Georgia in terms of the recidivism. His numbers are off the charts, helping kids. He looks like a typical, very conservative Southern judge, but he has radically changed the way that kids are treated, and so it's improved their entire way of doing things. But he's also got a system where the juvenile justice is talking with the schools, and the schools are everybody's talking. The police are talking, and so I thought he was going to be here by now, but I don't know if she's had trouble getting him.
All right.
Is there any plans to also work with the middle school? Because as we know, middle school is a transitioning time for many students where they can take a right path or get started on a wrong path. I know that I deal with my own middle schooler and attitude and challenging. There's just a challenge. So I didn't know if there was any plans to work with middle school students as well. You know, start early would be a great way to make sure that we kind of hopefully head off some of these problems. I know that that's something that we're definitely seeing is, they're challenging times.
I can tell you that the middle school social workers and administration was there as well, so they were starting to get some information on it last year. Lori Strand, our mental health therapist, is very involved with this, and is Officer Gelsky hiding around the corner?
Yes.
Because he's been very instrumental even this summer in working with juvenile offenders and helping them do community service and those kinds of things instead of another route. So there's a lot of coming together from various efforts in various agencies.
Quick question. So who do you think you're going to send from the staff side to this?
I don't know that we're sending anybody to that because of the fact that someone's coming here, and it's more time out of, we don't want people out of buildings for everything.
Yeah.
Mr. Glenn and myself are looking at possibly attending again this year. This is a restorative justice program. It's something that we're looking, most districts do district-wide, but starting small with a reproducible population, being able to replicate it on a larger scale. So really concentrating on fully implementing it at the Silver Creek, and then expanding it to the high school and expanding it down to the middle school. So it's kind of start small and expand as you perfect the program. So it's been done really well in districts. It's also been done very haphazardly and too quickly and hasn't had any sustainability. So we want to make sure that we're working very tightly with the juvenile justice system, Teresa, Judge Ingram, all the folks that are involved on the juvenile side, and making sure that we do it right.
And I don't know about Lori. Is Lori involved at all?
Yes, definitely.
Great. Okay.
I would just like to say I'm a proponent of start small, make sure we're doing it correctly, and then scale it out. Rather, because if we try to scale it out across the board without having all the details worked out, I think your opportunity for failure is much greater. So I appreciate that approach.
It's been pretty successful at Silver Creek, and we've started to expand that out already. And Lori Bridgman is tied to both, actually district-wide, and all the social workers are being trained as well. So we've started to move it out.
But if the board members want to attend the conference, I would be comfortable with that. I don't know if any other board members has any disagreements with that opportunity.
I think that Carol found it, fantastic. I know I did, and I know that I think she was not looking forward to it, and all of a sudden she learned a lot. And what's great is, out of the whole conference, they pull out one just for educators, so it's really concentrated, and you just have to spend a day. That's it.
All right. If there's no further discussion, we'll go ahead and move forward now with new business. Item number 1 is the declaration of Zone 3 vacancy. And after last month's board meeting, we received an email from Trustee Freund citing health issues that she would not be able to continue on with that. And so as of today, July 12th, we are officially declaring Zone 3 vacant, and we'll begin the appointment process. Just as a review, we have 90 days from the declaration of vacancy to appoint from within that zone. As board members, And then we have an additional 30 days on top of that, where if we don't get an appointment from within the zone, we can appoint from within the district. If we as a board fail to do that within the 120 days from the declaration of vacancy, then it falls to the county commissioners to make that appointment, and it's taken out of the hands of the Board of Trustees at that time. So with that, I'll go ahead and open it up for the discussion of the appointment process.
So to speak to process, Zone 3 is first. Residents of Zone 3 are able to apply or want to become that trustee. If there's only one, is that de facto that one person would become that?
No.
They still would require our approval, so they would have to get in front of us and we'd say yes or no to that individually, first of all.
Anytime in the first 120 days, whether it's within the 90 days of the zone or within the second 30 days of the district, it would still require board appointment.
Okay.
The board does not appoint only after that 120 days, and that goes to the county commissioners.
So these would be the stages of process. Initially, probably one person wants to do it. Do we have to accept or deny that one person? Then we have multiple people at that point of, so what is the cutoff for that one person or multiple people from the zone? That's sick. How soon can we act on that?
That's a question.
We can act as quick as the board deems prudent, or take all 90 days, depending on how the board feels.
Okay. And that would be a board consensus decision, or that would be a board action item?
I think it's just a consensus decision.
Okay. So can we walk away from tonight with some idea of where and how we want to handle this?
I would welcome that.
Okay.
Do you want, I believe Amanda has your timeline from last summer. Do you want to
Yeah, would you
review
mind
that?
bringing up
Start
the last timeline that we used
Start
for our
with
last appointment process?
So I adapted it to meet this year's timeline, but last year we went through a similar process starting in July. So with the declaration happening today, the appointment would need to be made by October 12th. So that's kind of our deadline in terms of the 90 days. If we were to follow what we did last year, we waited and allowed applicant letters to come in through the summer. We were afraid that individuals were out of town or vacationing, and so we waited until early September to collect all those application letters, and then on right around the 22nd of September, we did the actual interviews. So we could do that a little bit differently this year and push it up and actually do our interviews during the summer in August or September if we wanted to. I think last year the thought was just we were worried people were out of town. So the 90-day timeline will end on October 12th, and then the additional 30 days then, of course, would be November 12th.
Okay.
Trustee Corcoran.
So I liked the timeline last year, and I thought that it was a nice balance between having people out of town and then having people back, but not waiting until the last minute. And when you have a 4-4 board, I remember one time talking to Karen, and she said that can sometimes lead to, it's just like the Supreme Court. You get a lot of locks, and we want to be doing business. So I think that the timeline from last year was a good one. And then my other comment is that I would like to have a system where we each vote for the top choice, because when we are voting 3 points, 2 points, 1 point, that doesn't really correspond. It might not correspond to the way that we feel about someone. There's also some kind of mathematical thing that can happen where the second most picked person is favored by that kind of rubric. And don't ask me what the mathematics are about that, but I think that if it was cleaner, it would be better. So just have one vote, one top candidate, and then there was no question by the community, and there's no gray area, and that's my suggestion.
I think that's great. I think that was complicated beyond belief the last time we did it, and I don't even really know how it shook out. And so I think as a voter, it shook out, but it was like, There was
We're
like,
glad we have you.
Yeah, we are.
We're glad we have you, but I think you were actually surprised at the same time.
Yeah,
too.
I was.
You
Well,
were
it was a
surprised.
three-way tie.
Yeah, it was a surprise.
Mr. King.
I think the law is pretty clear. The board has to act in a majority vote. So you can do all the charts and matrices and everything you want to, but ultimately, it's Jane Smith, vote yes or vote no. That's the only way the board can really act. You can be influenced by matrices, but you must ultimately take one vote, and it's a majority vote.
There has to be a majority.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't mean any offense there, Cam. I voted for you. But it's like, I think one vote would be terrific. I mean, we have one vote when we go to the poll. Why not one vote at the table?
Is everyone in consensus then about maintaining the similar timeline, possibly looking at September 10th-ish to have the applications in by and interviews the week of that September 20th ballpark? That way we are able to swear in a new trustee at that October board meeting?
That's optimistic and great.
Sounds
I'm an
good.
optimist.
Worked last time, so.
All right. We will continue on with that as the plan then. Brings us to item number 2, reduction of building sites. And I'll go ahead and turn the time over to Dr. Holmes at this point in time.
All right, thank you. This is an item that came up a little bit during discussion of budget, but is not a fast-moving item, so it wasn't anything that was going to save us in our budget deliberations this spring. But there was conversation about are there district properties that could be sold or declared as excess. And we do have some vacant district properties, but probably not very saleable, is that a word, at this current time. But one of the things that we did look at was if we were to eliminate the district's current central office and move the 14 people that work in that building over to this building, what would be involved in that, and also eliminating the Voice 2 house, not the program, just the house next door, and also moving that program over here. Would there be any financial benefit to the district? So we did some very preliminary work. As you can see in your packet, that the value of those two properties is probably just under $2 million. Are they quickly something we could sell quickly? Probably not. You know how commercial real estate works around here, so it might be a 2-year process if that's what we decided to do. But before we would do anything like that, we need to make sure that we can move those 14 people plus the voice program over here to this building. So we would want to do an evaluation of the viability of doing that to determine whether we should invest more money in moving forward with that or not. Just a very rough square footage estimate on build-out puts the, if we moved into the Queen of the Hills room or that center core and all those little offshoot rooms and closets and stuff, if that was all redone, somewhere between 1.5 and 1.8 million. That's on the back of a napkin, so don't hold me to that. Cost to do that, especially because of the fact that once we start messing with that room, it does have access right now with a ramp, but once we start messing with it, and I don't know when that ramp was put in the 70s or whatever, we're now bound by bringing it up to today's standards type of thing. It would eliminate the yearly cost of operating those two properties, which is just under $50,000 a year. It would reduce the amount of space in this building that was available for public use. The Queen of the Hills room is a lesser used room, but there are days when it is used. Parking is already a problem here, so that would be an issue we would have to address, most likely initially through better enforcement of where our students are parking, because our students are parking out here, keeping the public from having parking, and get them to park around back where in their school parking lot where they're supposed to. It would eliminate the need for us to do some infrastructure upgrades that are coming up pretty quick for that, such as the installation of fire suppression system in that property. And it would make us, as a district office, more accessible to and more visible to the general public. However, it's not going to be a big windfall. It's going to be selling one property to basically support the rehabbing of another property type of thing. So at this point, we wanted to just bring it to you and have you give us some guidance on whether you want us to go ahead and do the feasibility study. That would be about $5,000. Or if you want us to just drop the whole idea, or what you want us to do. So I'll be quiet and let you guys have discussion.
Theoretically speaking, too, in the plant facilities levy, there was proposed upgrades to the HVAC system and the fire suppression system at the community campus, as well as the house next door, or not?
You mean the district office?
The district office.
The district office. I don't believe the house next door was included in that. The house next door that we use right now, we can use the first floor for the voice program. That's about all we can. If we decide to stay where we are, we will still need to move forward on finding a better facility for the voice program. That's a pretty rundown piece of property, and I'm not sure there's any amount of money that's worth putting into it, so maybe it's worth finding another location. Would that be a good assessment, Mr. Roy?
But if we were to sell these properties, we would not tie up those funds, and those would be available to assist with the remodel of the Queen of the Hills room, or would those not be accessible where they're tied to that through the plant facilities levy?
You want to come on up? We would probably ask that you use that to reimburse that, because we would have to put money out up front for something that wasn't initially approved. And then we would use the sale of that property to reimburse what we put out up front.
Right. So you take the receipts from the one property and bring it over here and do the remodel over here.
Okay. Open it up for board discussion.
Seems like sixes to me, like what currently exists, then to move it and pay for it. I mean, I think it's probably pretty good. And then the money spent in the process of figuring out if it's worth it, it seems to be working. I don't see a whole lot of problems with what currently exists. I would recommend that we leave things the way they are. I think it's okay.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Rob. I do like the idea of the district office being here and being more accessible, but I'm not too thrilled about additional costs at this time, and the maintenance cost for those two buildings is pretty minimal compared to what it would take to move the district office and the voice too. So.
Trustee Corker.
Thank you. The Voices building is a mystery to me. I know it was bought at the very height about 8 years ago for $720,000, and it's worth half that now, if that, which is, just that just breaks my heart. But I'm wondering if we do put that as a listing, if it's not really usable on the second floor and we can find a better spot for Voices, we're wasting all that space anyway. I mean, that would be the only thing that I would see that would be good to divest ourselves of. But the district office right now, I don't think that I can't imagine that there's any demand for that building. When I look down on South River Street and I see a giant empty building, Blaine Manor, I see an empty building. I would want to have that cash in hand and before I ever started to, mess with this building, and I don't think that's going to happen. So the only thing that I can see that's possibly saleable is Voices 2 to create a better environment. And I don't know if you think that there's anything that might, if we would get more money for that building, then put it in the bank and buy a facility that would be more appropriate for that program. I don't know. Or rent space.
Sure.
I was going to say, I think the value on that particular building, just the Voice building, was just under $400,000. So I'm not sure we could secure another property for that. We could certainly look at adapting some space here for them. because it is a conundrum that as a board we're going to have to face really quickly just because of the rundown state of the facility.
So does, for the Voices 2 building, does this valuation include the rundown?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's. Can we use a different terminology?
About here?
It could use.
Yeah, a little worn.
Yeah, it could.
Well loved.
Yeah, it could use a coat of paint and a little bit. It's it's totally functional, livable.
Structurally, it's sound. It does not meet ADA requirements for use on the second story and different things like that.
Right.
As far as a residence, it meets and exceeds the building codes. It just not.
And it could function again as a bed and breakfast.
Yeah, it just does not.
What is our cost if we were to bring it up to where it would be in?
The nature of the building is that it has a number of different levels within the building. So it's not just getting the access in and out. Once you get in the building, there are doorways, there are different levels as you go through. It would be pretty dramatic to bring it up to ADA all the way through.
Probably be better start over.
Probably cost what the building costs.
More than likely. It would be pretty extensive.
Yeah.
But if we were not to leave it like at ADA recommendations and just bring it up to, say, if we wanted to sell it, what would be that cost?
To sell it now?
No, to bring it up to where we could probably get a better value from
Yeah, you could do a quick cost analysis. I mean, as far as you could, put a fresh coat of paint on and do some things to it, but it depends on how far you want to go. I mean, there would be a diminishing return eventually if you wanted to recarpet or, do all those things. So we could have somebody take a look at it and see if they thought that there would be a return on investment for doing those things to try to bring the cost or the the value of the property up.
If the board would be in agreement, I would think that would be something maybe we could look at. If the cost is minimal, but it greatly exponentially raises the cost of the property value.
Or sell it as is.
Yeah.
Either way, whichever makes
Sure,
sense.
I'll have somebody take a look and see if
I
there's
think
a
the
benefit.
analysis would be good to have done at least
Sure.
to see those things. I would be okay with looking for other options, either for the Voices 2 program. I think personally, long term, it would be more beneficial to have the district office here central. Timing, whether it's right now or whether we look at doing that in the future, I think that's up for debate with the supply and demand on the market for current commercial properties. But I think we as a board made a very wise decision bringing our board meetings here to the community campus. There's no way that we could have housed at times the number of participants in our board meetings at our current location. And I think for ease of just operation within the district, I think it would be better long-term to have our district office tied here to the community campus. But whether or not this is the right time is the only consideration in my mind.
Maybe something else we could consider is if we did put these properties up for sale, once they are sold, then maybe we could start the process, of moving over here. But contingent upon this properties being sold.
You'd be looking at a significant lead time from the time that's sold to the time you'd be able to occupy this.
It would be, in order to remodel and construct, you'd be looking 10 months out at least.
Yeah, I would say 6 to 10.
You could have a pocket listing and just, obviously the contingencies would discourage a lot of people, but there's no use, there's no reason not to. I don't think anything's going to happen, but there's no, just to have the realtors know that that's always a possibility at a certain price if Micron moves in.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong too, but once we have an evaluation from the district, we cannot, we have a sealed bid. Remind me of the process. We have a sealed bid, and it has to be above that evaluation. Is
It has
that
to be
correct?
equal to the appraisal value.
We have to have it appraised. That's just like we did at
Carrie?
For the houses that we sold and carry.
So I'm just trying to get my mind around everything that's been talked about here. I agree with Rob. I don't see the need right now, given the real estate market. We would be spending money, and then we'd have an asset sitting there empty. And I also see that the Voices building is not really what we want to be holding on to, so maybe we want to especially push that, because it does seem like there's other uses for that make it more commercial in terms of a B&B like it used to be. And so if we can get that money, and I don't know if there's any other ideas for where Voices 2 would be housed. I don't know if it can be housed in this building. I'm not sure the needs of that group of people, whether they need to be off campus. So we could have a realtor who's got their eye open for our needs.
Dr. Holmes?
I think if we went that way, the first thing we'd want to do is meet with Ms. Gutnick and Mr. Ellison and the Voice students that are there and see what they think their needs are. But I can pretty reasonably assure you that they would feel like being off of the high school campus is critical. So if they were here, like with CSI and a more, because of the fact that they're really trying to transition to adulthood and feel like they've left high school behind and are moving on, I think that's critical. But housing them close to CSI or something like that would give them that independence and moving up from high school.
Trustee Bustos.
I've also had some thoughts about what programs, things are going to be affected here in the community campus should we move Voices 2 and the district office here. What is going to be affected where the move would be?
Well, our intention would be not to let any of our community partners that are already in this building leave, we would work with them. That would be part of this viability study, would be working with Parks and Rec, the Drug Coalition, CSI, to make sure that they also have voice in what they need in this building and that we're not, but the primary space that is got at least enough square footage is that core center area where we already have some offices, where there's just a lot of closed rooms that could easily be included and made into offices. Right now they're storage and that Queen of the Hills room. So the biggest loss would be the availability of the Queen of the Hills room for public use.
Do we have an estimation on how many times it gets used a month?
Teresa Walker is gone.
That could be included in the board pack, in the board debrief on Friday. So
it's the least desired room. People use it only as a last resort.
What is our conclusion of this discussion?
From what I'm hearing, the options are open to pursue the sale of where the Voices 2 program is housed.
To get you some more information.
And to get more information on that. But as far as moving the district office, I think at this time I'm not hearing consensus to pursue that. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to item 3, board adoption of updated 2016 special education manual, and we'll turn the time over to Ms. Debbie Gutnick. Trustee Corker, if you wouldn't mind taking over for just a few minutes, I shall return shortly.
Okay.
You need.
Hey, Sean, you're up. Could you touch the air conditioner?
So as was put in your board memo, your board packet, whenever there's an adjustment to the special ed manual at the state level, there's a process that we do. The first process is that the State Board of Education has to approve the manual, and then it goes back to the districts, and districts are required to run it through our board for approval as well. The manual is available online. I also sent you a number of changes that were listed. They're really not too major. A lot of corrections in some errors in spelling and punctuation. A little bit of removal of not from IDEA, but from No Child Left Behind to Every Child Succeeds Act.
Every student
Every student succeeds Act.
Elementary
yes.
and Secondary Ed Act.
That's the one, yes. So
Thank you for the
I
name.
think you've seen those changes in that memo. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have regarding it.
Pamela Plowman sent us a note about some things that weren't included, and I was just kind of curious if maybe I missed it or why they wouldn't be included. And what she did put in there was a process by which parents who object to any learning material or activity on the basis that it harms the child or impairs the parent's firmly held beliefs, values, or principles may withdraw their child from the activity, class, or program in which the material is used.
Are you talking about special education?
So
Yeah.
That's a statute for all students.
All students. And is that part of the special education, or is that
No.
something else?
That
Okay.
applies to every student.
Every student. Okay.
So the special
Maybe I
education
missed that one.
manual talks about what qualifies a student for different categories of eligibility. It talks about the processes that we go through. It talks about law. And it just gives us some general guidelines of how we run our special ed program.
Okay.
I think what you're referring to is the protection of student data.
Oh, okay.
It sounds-
Maybe. I guess I got that confused because there was one part that she did highlight. It was like annual notice of parent rights. And I know that that's part of the special education too, so I think that's why I got it confused.
Yeah, it is.
There's policy under instructional arrangements. So there is policy that goes to that in our policy manual under the 600 section.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Any further comment? No. So we're about to make the motion. Well, I think that there's a draft policy that needs a motion.
Well, we'll do that during action.
Yeah, I was
Right now,
gonna
we're
say.
just on this.
Right now is just a discussion, just to learn about it, and then any decisions will be in the decision portion of the agenda, the action portion of the agenda after public comment. So,
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
all right. I guess we'll go ahead and move forward with the MOUs with the City of Haley and turn the time over to
Yeah.
Dr. Holmes.
And first of all, I just apologize how incredibly late you got this memorandum of understanding. We had multiple meetings, the school district and the city, on the MOU, and we thought we had it ready to go 2 weeks ago. And I'm married to one, so I'll say this anyway. Then the attorneys got involved, so here we go. So it was very late in getting it to you, but we did feel like we should bring it to you anyway because it is a summertime issue. And so basically the memorandum of understanding you have would allow us to partner with the City of Haley. They have a well that is currently not being used right across McKercher Boulevard from the fields at Wood River Middle School. That well is already by the state of Idaho authorized to put water only on the middle school fields. So that's the only thing the city can do with it. So right now they're not using it. So they're going to lose their water rights if we can't find a way to work together. And we're going to keep paying $80,000 or slightly less. I think last year we looked, it was $78,000 that we paid last year for irrigation of the middle school fields alone. So what this MOU would do is for 3 years the city would not charge us for the cost of water from that well, but we would have to pick up the cost of installing the pump, the meter, and hooking it up to our system type of thing. So the $80,000 we're normally paying on the fields would be going toward those costs because there's about $175,000 in costs for that to get it all hooked up and running. Then at the end of 3 years, we would have the opportunity to purchase the water rights to that well so we could use them going forward. If we purchase those water rights, the water rights themselves would be about $180,000. I'm looking at Mr. Royal so he can keep me straight on this. Plus some legal fees and stuff like that. So let's say another $200,000. So once again, it would take us a couple of years to recoup those costs. On on those particular properties. One of the other things that could come into play, rather than purchasing it in the future, and I wanted to talk about that because you probably wonder why in the world this MOU has, for example, item G, the city and district have previously discussed exchanges of land and water. Parties agree to continue discussions. There's a whole series of domino pieces that could come into play. Right now there is the developers out at Quigley are working on that, and they're trying to get permission from both the city and the county to move forward with that. One of the things that they have discussed doing with that is donating a significant chunk of land to the school district for the development of ball fields. We would need to have a junior varsity boys and girls field, and then we would eventually, as the development moved forward, also have a fourplex for Little League. That would allow us to move those ball diamonds, Nelson Field. We've talked to the Nelson family, so this isn't a surprise to them. Move Nelson Field over by the high school at the edge of that Quigley development, if all of these dominoes fall in place. Then that would allow us to give some of the Haley playground land that is currently now the Nelson Field balls to the city, who is needing parking over there, as they have the ice house, the rodeo grounds, the skate park, the you name it, all going on over there. They use our Haley playground almost all summer with rodeo and everything like that anyway. So there is the possibility that rather than purchasing this in a couple of years, we could do some land exchanges. We've also talked to them about, in this land exchange, accessing a well that they have close to Haley for irrigating the Haley fields, because Haley and the middle school are the only two complexes right now where we irrigate with city water, which is, of course, more expensive, and the city's also under pressure to extend their water type of thing. So that's why those conversations are in there. So if any of you have an 8-ball or a magic, what do you call those things, where you see into the future, that would be real helpful right now. But at this point, it would be my recommendation that we go ahead and enter into this MOU, get ourselves off of city water, and then have a couple options 3 years from now to either purchase, or if all the dominoes have fallen into place, to do some exchanges for water. So, questions? Mr. Royal or myself will try to help you with those.
If we're averaging about $78,000, $80,000 a year, and an estimated cost of $175 to be able to tie into that well, I think the 3-year, the ROI is under that 3-year paybacks. It would save us a little bit right up front, but I think the long-term savings to the district would be extremely great if some of these different MOU pieces fell into place. It's something that we can, in my opinion, seriously consider to have profound implications down the road.
I have a question. How many acres are there?
9.
9.1.
And are we paying $80,000 a month during the summer, or is it just over the summer?
That's
total year.
Total for a season.
For those 9 acres.
If I recall correctly, Dr. Holmes, during our last one-on-one, I thought you said that you were going to make a recommendation that we not approve this.
The way the MOU showed up that day, yes, I was. That's why I said I apologize for it being so late.
Okay.
Because we thought we had an MOU agreed to a couple weeks ago, and then when we actually got the draft, I couldn't agree to it. But with some additional work on our behalf by Jim Speck, the guy who does our water property, I'm okay with it now.
Okay.
Further questions, comments?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, and I was stressing over getting it to you guys, too.
Further questions or comments? All right, we'll go ahead and move forward with the second public comment portion of the agenda. We'll start off with Pamela Plowman.
Pamela Plowman, 111 East Myrtle Street in Haley. Thank you for taking my comment tonight. I wanted to comment on the draft policy you're going to be considering in just a little bit on the protection of student data. I wrote a letter to you guys, and I think I'll just read it for simplicity. Dear BCSD School Board Trustees, data collection in education is becoming more and more controversial nationwide, and many parents are increasingly concerned about their children's digital privacy. Tonight, consideration of a new and majorly revised policy on the protection of student data is coming up for consideration. This new proposed policy will not be current as of July 14th, this coming Thursday, when a new Chapter 56 of Title 33 in Idaho legislature comes into effect. The below new legal provisions need to be included in the district's policy to be considered up to date. I brought this up at the last board meeting, but I don't see any change in tonight's proposed language, so I just wanted to clarify. So this last session, the Idaho legislature created a new chapter under the Title 33 education called Parental Rights in Education. And it's just a half a page, but I just still want to condense it to what I think is important for tonight. There's two components to this chapter, and the first component that is relative to tonight's considerations, the law now states a process by which parents who object to any learning material or activity on the basis that it harms the child or impairs parents' firmly held beliefs, values, or principles may withdraw their child from the activity, class, or program in which the material is used. And then there's a second component to this chapter which says, and this is all it says, annual notice of parental rights. School districts and the boards of directors of public charter schools shall annually notify a parent or guardian of a student enrolled in the school district or public charter school of the parents' or guardian's rights as specified in this chapter. Without the inclusion of this new addition to the law, the district's data policy will immediately be out of date. Please do not approve this revised policy until it includes this most recent provision regarding student data protection and parental rights. Thank you for your important service to the children and families of this valley. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Next up, Andy Parnes.
Good evening, and thanks for allowing me to add my name late to the list. My name's Andy Parnes. I live at 317 Starweather Drive in the county. When the topic of transgender policy came up, I became a little concerned that you were going to kick it down the road and do things that were going to take a long time to enact in terms of locker rooms and bathrooms and so on. So I was sitting in the back, thank heavens to iPhones. I got on and read the Dear Colleague letter from the Department of Education on Title IX. And it's very simple. It says, transgender students must be allowed to participate in such activities and access such facilities consistent with their gender identity. And that's very much like what the language in the draft policy that's before you tonight is. And regarding restrooms and locker rooms, it says a school may provide separate facilities on the basis of sex, but must allow transgender students access to such facilities consistent with their gender identity. And that's, you know, from related to the 1972 Civil Rights Act, Title IX, which I think we're covered by. And so I would just urge you to, if you're going to look at a bunch of other things and the perfect solution and everything, to go back to what the letter that was sent out in May to all the schools and everybody was just very simple. And that's what the policy says. Just don't discriminate. Allow them to go into whatever facilities they have with their gender identity. And it doesn't make that whether they're in first grade or kindergarten or in high school. And so I just ask you, the policy is written, it's proposed, is very simple and straightforward. There may be a perfect policy out there that deals with things that are going to cost money to do and retrofit locker rooms and so on. But in the meantime, I think we have to follow the law of the land and just follow the simple draft policy. We're not going to discriminate against transgender people, and that they can go in the places that are consistent with their gender identity. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you for your comment. And that brings us to the action portion of our agenda. The first item is a consent agenda, and we have the consideration of minutes, the annual budget hearing, regular June board meeting, and special meeting, June 14th, 2016. Skipping item 2 as amended. Item number 3, permission to advertise for the purchase of district fuel for the 2016-17 school year. Number 4, acceptance of monthly financial reports, payment of bills. Number 5, acceptance of year-end emergency drill reports. And item number 6, consideration of personnel exiting and entering. And Ms. LaChance, would you mind sharing that?
Classified non-certified staff exiting. Corlane Alt, bus driver, transportation, retiring August 31st, 2016. John Thomas, maintenance custodian, maintenance, retiring August 31st, 2016. Derek May, special education paraprofessional, Wood River Middle School. Classified staff recommending for hire, Valerie Siemens, interim finance manager, district office. Amanda LaChance, .5 parent liaison and .5 board clerk at the district office. Sharon Olson, computer lab paraprofessional, Wood River High School. Aaron Patrick, paraprofessional regular at Wood River Middle School. Brian Bailey, special education paraprofessional at Wood River Middle School. Certified staff exiting, Jane Walter, .5 FTE French teacher and .5 FTE IB coordinator at Wood River Middle School. Certified staff recommending for hire, contingent on receipt of all required documentation, Celeste Avery, .5 FTE school teacher at Cary. Derek May, 1.0 FTE ENL teacher at Haley. Christopher Hansen, 1.0 FTE math teacher at Wood River High School for a 1-year contract. Nicholas Laferriere, 1.0 FTE science teacher at Wood River High School. John Broflot, 1.0 FTE math teacher at Wood River High School. Deborah Cooper, 1.0 FTE special ed resource room teacher at Alturas. Karen Geeve, 1.0 FTE special ed resource room teacher at Wood River Middle School. Jeffrey Gardner, 1.0 FTE science teacher at Wood River Middle School. Andrew Martone, 1.0 FTE science teacher at Wood River Middle School. Amy Botts, 1.0 FTE academic advisory teacher at Wood River Middle School.
All right, thank you very much. I'll go ahead and call for a motion at this time with the consent agenda as read.
I would like to make a motion to open for discussion our payment of bills, and then also about Amanda LaChance's position, because I don't recall hearing about a parent liaison work. I only knew about the board clerk, so I want to get more specification on that.
I think we can pull things out of the consent agenda.
Okay.
In order to do that, if you'd like to do that.
Yeah. So I'd like to make a motion to approve all the items that you talked about, minus the payment of bills and Amanda LaChance's parent liaison position.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Is this the time to open it up for discussion or just to approve?
No, just approve.
That would be a great time to explain why you want to do it.
No, just approve first and then
Okay.
vote to the...
Okay.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as read, with the exception of the recommended for hire Amanda LaChance, and the item number 4, acceptance of monthly financial report, payment of bills. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
So
Take one item.
So item 4, payment of bills. I actually had called Val Siemens, but it was this morning, and I called your extension, but I wasn't sure if I should reach you there. Because I had a question about seeing 2 times the playground equipment for $118,000, if I recall correctly. And I saw that last month that we approved that, and then again this month. And I pulled up last month's board packet and saw that we were going to be approving it twice. So I was a little bit confused.
I guess I would have to look into looking at it last month. We actually paid the bill this month. So I know we've only paid the bill once.
Right, and I saw it up for, I'm just wondering, why are we approving this twice?
Was it approved last month during the budget process?
It was, yes.
Okay, so last month it was
I
the budget.
don't know if it was during the budget process, but it was in our check register of items to approve.
Was it was it the exact same number on
Yes.
the check register and
Yep.
stuff like that?
June 15th and June 15th this month as well.
It's probably just a carryover.
I wonder if
that
that could be my newness, and I will apologize, and I will double check. I set the date parameters, and I wonder if I set the date parameters wrong and picked up the bills from last month.
Okay.
In
yeah,
addition
I
to
saw
this
a lot of
month.
June 15th dates on there, so I was just a little bit confused. I was like,
I probably
especially when it was
should've-
like a big ticket item. I'm like, I thought we approved this last month, and I did go back, and it was something that we did approve last month. So I was like, I'm not sure why we're approving this twice.
I will make absolutely sure that it was once. I've looked at the bills this month, and I know we've only paid it once, so I can assure you of that. But I can also go back and look at how I set the parameters and make sure that I could have made a mistake on that, because it's my first time of doing that, and I
No
don't
worries.
think I understood that part. So I apologize for that.
Okay. Yes. So I guess I would like to make a motion to approve payment of those bills.
That haven't been paid already.
That have not been paid already.
Understood, and I will clarify that and send you an email and let you know through Amanda.
That would be great.
I'll second that one.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Payment of bills accepted. And the second item?
Next item, Amanda, not that I haven't loved her work, I just don't recall her being parent liaison, something that we've discussed, or when we were talking about the budget, that her and some of the give and take that we did ultimately come down to for the budget process. It was her position being cut down to a half-time position,
correct.
but I do not recall another half-time position coming up for parent liaison.
That was part of the budget as well.
Part of the budget process, to my recollection, was to add back in the special
Ed, parent liaison, .5.
education paraliaison at a .5 position rather than a full FTE.
Okay,
And that
so
was approved in the
she
last budget.
is taking over Kelly Choma's former position.
Dr. Holmes.
If I could add some more clarity on that. The budget that was passed last month included a .5 board clerk and a .5 special ed parent liaison. That position was posted internally first because you got to get everybody in the seat in the House first. And Amanda did apply for that position and was selected for that position. It is a classified position as passed by the budget. Shannon Mazza, our HR manager, has been in conversation even before the budget was brought to the board, and I'm trying not to reveal too much personnel information. The previous person in that position was not interested in that position any longer.
Okay.
Just let me leave it at that.
Yeah, I just didn't see it exiting for that particular person, so I think
Oh, yeah,
that
that's
maybe
probably
that's
true.
that's why I was a little bit left confused with that. So it probably would have clicked and made sense if I had seen that.
All right, I'll go ahead. Trustee Corker.
I had a question, and I'm going to try and remember it about that position. Is that a quarter, you're doing a quarter of office work and a quarter of interaction with teachers to help with their special education questions and needs in terms of their classroom?
No. The job description for that position is basically liaison with parents and reaching out to parents and seeing if they need to be connected with resources to help them in supporting their students with special needs or understanding the process in the schools. There's no support to teachers other than if they have a parent that they're of a student they're working with that needs help.
Okay. Because I do recall, and I would have to go back and maybe I can ask you directly in an email, a teacher who wrote in and said, this has been cut and we really needed it, and it had to do with the special education position, but I'll go back and get that. And I'm just amazed that you can do both. That's what I'm floored about. Yeah.
So wouldn't it be best if that is a certified position to have that?
It's a classified
Oh,
position.
classified.
It's approved in the budget was a classified position. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Is there a motion on the table regarding that position?
I'll make a motion to go ahead and approve it as it was.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. On to item B, consideration of bid award recommendation for the sale of buses.
In my memo to you, I provided information that we had gone through the advertising process that is required, and we received no bids from any of our potential bidders. We did some checking, went back on that. The notices were emailed out. We got some incorrect address notifications back from the post office, but there were some of the potential bidders that did not receive the letter that we mailed out. So what we would like to do, just for information for you, is we would like to restart that process immediately so that hopefully some of these other bidders that said they would have bid had they received the information, they can go through that process, get this bus so that they can provide that to a school prior to school starting this fall. So we would like to move timely on that if we could.
And correct me if I'm wrong, do we need board action in order to do that?
Yeah, you need to reopen the bids, because the bid process, because it ended and we had none. So you need to give approval for him to open it back up.
Okay. Any discussion by the board?
I have a quick question. Who is buying these buses? Are they other school districts that are poor, or how does that work?
It really depends. There's a variety of people who will actually bid on the buses. When we purchase a new bus, sometimes that bus dealer will turn around and use it as a trade-in and move it on to another district who will use it for a couple of years. Sometimes one of the particular people I talk to buys school buses and turns them into buses that transport firefighters. So they can end up in a lot of different places. Certainly they're able to go to a school district and be used immediately, and then if they do go to some other life, as a fire bus or something, they'll take the lights off and paint them a different color and things like that. But they can be used a variety of ways.
Okay, and just refresh my mind, how many miles there's an automatic procedure, I think, that when a bus gets to a certain amount of years or miles?
Yeah, actually it's not necessarily on miles for a school bus. Typically it's based on the number of years. What we try and do is we try and maximize the number of miles that we can use a bus for prior to selling it at the end of its our reimbursable life according to the Department of Education. So we normally keep buses 12 years. We try and get as many miles on them as we can. We will have them on short routes for a few years, and then we'll have them on really long routes for, to try and equal that out so that we're not selling something with an extremely low amount of miles where we could have had more service out of it.
And we get 12 years of reimbursable, but school districts can take the lives of those buses beyond those 12 years, but we tend to stay in a 12-year rotation here in Blaine County.
Can I ask, with all the budget cutting, if there's any way to look into possible savings in that area? Boy, I'd love to see a report about that. Maybe there are none, but certainly that would be really terrific if we could save a few $10,000 a year on that.
Dr. Holmes.
I want to remind you, too, that the monies that we get for school buses from the state, that's all we can use it for. So we use that money for that, or we don't take it.
And we never use more than
We
get?
use a little more, but not much.
So, yeah, so in that case, we could save that amount if we use that. You know better than I do what I'm talking about.
Sure. Yeah, I can take a look at that and see if we can come up with some options.
That would be fantastic. Just a little bit here and there would be nice.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll go ahead and call for a motion at this time.
I'll make a motion to reopen the bidding process.
I'll second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion carries 4-0. Next item on the agenda is the Blaine County Rec District Winter Trail Usage MOU. Are there any questions prior to, this was on the agenda as of last month? I'll go ahead and call for a motion at this time.
I move to approve the MOU with BCRD for trail usage.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Item number D, Board Adoption of Updated 2016 Special Education Manual. I'll go ahead and call for a motion at this time.
How do we want to word this? How do I want to word this? I'd like to make a motion that the board and the public have a chance to review.
I think you're
we're on
talking
the
about
wrong
the
one.
next one, I think.
We're on the special
Yeah,
education.
Special education first.
I
I'm
move
so
we
sorry.
adopt the special
Sorry.
education
Sorry.
updated for 2016, the manual.
Why am I on the wrong? Because I'm on the bookmarks.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we're on to consideration of draft policy 502.12, transgender and gender nonconforming students.
So I guess I'll state it again. I'd like to make a motion to review the policy of Virginia Public Schools and to allow that, the public to be able to review that and provide input. And so that we delay this vote until that chance, we've both had that chance to review this policy, which seems to...
Not to put words in your mouth, but am I understanding that you're making a motion to table this item
Yes, that's
until
a good way to put it.
a future
Thank you.
date
Thank you for
to
helping me with that. Yep.
properly review?
Yep.
There's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
I'm in agreement of pushing this back a little bit, but I think that we, at the same time, need to have this cleared up before the school year enters. We enter school in September. I don't think it's going to be fair to that entire population of students that we leave this hanging and implement it partway into a school year. I really think it behooves us to look at this hard, get this information out, get the feedback back, and make a decision at our next meeting, because I think it's too significant an issue to dither around, and we need to do something with it.
I would tend to agree. And just as a point of clarification, too, regardless of what our policy would state, we are held by the law. And so whatever the law states, we need to live up to, even if we don't have our policy in place at this time. Dr. Holmes.
I would also recommend that you have Mr. King or Elaine Eberhardt Mackey, whoever has the immediate availability, to review it to make sure that we have the Idaho references in it, not the Minnesota, so that if you want to pass it next time, it's clear, good, ready to go.
Is this something maybe we could send to the policy committee to revise to?
They don't meet during the summer.
Oh, they don't?
So you're going to slow yourself down if you do that.
Okay.
Right.
I personally would recommend we get it to whichever one of the attorneys.
I think we should
would
send
like
it
to
to
do
the group that wrote the initial one, show them
Everhart
what
and
we
Mackey.
have receipt, the same group, send it
Okay.
back to them, say, hey, look at this, please plagiarize what you can, get this done, and get it out back to us immediately, ASAP.
I'm not putting
And then
that,
as-
right?
Don't, yeah, it's in the public record now.
And then as soon as we get it back, get it out in the public's view so public can have an opportunity to take it and read it and be prepared to make public comment either via email or via public comment at our next regular meeting. Mr. Blackman.
Mr. Chair, I just want to make sure that you're all in receipt of the letters from the Department of Justice and the Department of Education regarding Title IX. Mr. Parnes is correct. That was a letter, and I have copies of those. I thought I sent them to you all as a board.
I believe you did, but would
okay.
you mind resending those so they're fresh in our memory? So.
I just wanted to thank everybody who has been so helpful to the board discussion, all the people in the public who've showed up several times and made very personal comments, and it really, I think, put a face on this issue. This policy that we received from Virginia Public Schools, I think, from what I'm reading here, it augments the policy that we had, so it basically agrees with the particulars of that policy, but augments it in terms of the how it's implemented. So in a way, it looks to me even better and tighter. But you can be the judge of that, and you'll have the chance. And this is a fast-moving topic in our country, and I appreciate all of your input.
Yep. Okay. So we have a motion on the table motion in front of us to table this until the August board meeting. And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. It has been tabled until August, and we will resume conversation and decision in August. Next item up on the agenda is consideration of Blaine County School District draft policies. Draft Policy 901.9, Service Animals. Draft Policy 604.8, Advancement Requirements. And Draft Policy 604.9, Protection of Student Data. I'll go ahead and open it up for discussion or motion at this time.
I guess I would like to
Trustee Bustos.
discuss the student data. The protection of student data, because I think it is important for parents to know that they do have those options of withdrawing their children from any activity, class, or program. And having that in there would be important.
This policy doesn't.
Yes.
This policy doesn't address educational programming. It simply talks about student data, and it defines that. So basically what a data system means, what aggregated data is, personal identifiable data, but it's really about records and the retention of records. It has nothing to do with the choice of educational programming. So there is legislation out there giving parents the rights over educational programming. I'm guessing that we'll have another policy coming down the road from Everhart and Mackey that deals with that specific issue. So you won't find it anywhere in here because this is strictly about personal student data, testing data, grades, demographic data, social security numbers, things like that. And we have to report some of the data to when students are eligible for the draft, military institutions, things like that. But parents can also opt out of that. But this really has nothing to do with educational materials or educational programming.
Thank you.
This is kind of like a HIPAA thing, isn't it?
It's FERPA,
Yes.
yeah.
FERPA.
It's FERPA.
Yeah.
I think to answer your question, Trustee Bustos, is typically once laws are passed and go into effect, then the either Julian and Hall or Everhart and Mackey come out with policy updates, or the creation of new policies to make sure we're in compliant with the new laws as they're passed. And so we will be, I'm fairly confident we will be seeing a new policy that has to do with those things in the at a future date.
So Ms. Plowman is correct. There is legislation that came through the legislature this year, giving parents more rights regarding educational programming. This doesn't have to do with that. It says student data, quote, means data collected and or reported at the individual student level that includes student educational records. And then it goes on to list what all that includes. So grades, course grades, date of birth, degrees obtained, attendance, those kind of records. It really has nothing to do with textbooks, programming, arguments against, whether it's evolution or creationism, things like that. But that's a separate policy that I expect we'll see very well defined by Eberhardt and Mackey this fall.
Yeah. So,
or even this summer.
All right. I'll go ahead and call for a motion at this time if there's no further discussion.
Sorry.
Trustee Corker.
I'm a little bit conflicted because I feel like there's someone, I know we're not allowed to hear another point of view there, but I see someone in the audience who's conflicted about what they're hearing, and so I don't know exactly how to handle that. Is this a policy that needs to be passed tonight? I mean, is it required by the state right now?
It's just a recommendation.
It's a recommendation. It's up to board purview.
I'm just saying, does the state require it like within a few days or?
No, this is just an update from Eberhardt and Mackey.
Okay.
Get us
The state does require it.
Yeah, we have to have something speaking to FERPA.
Okay.
This is an update from Eberhardt and
Okay,
Mackey.
but it's not completely time sensitive at this moment, so that helps me.
Okay. Is there a motion on the table?
I'll move to accept the draft policies provided by 9019, 6048, 6049.
I'll go ahead and second.
I'm
Any discussion?
sorry,
Trustee
I
Corker?
just need some more information. It's not that I just don't believe John, it's not that I don't believe Pamela, I feel like I don't understand this issue, so.
Okay.
Any more discussion? I think what this policy particularly is pretty much housekeeping to make sure that files are protected. This is really not who can the information be shared with. There's no designation of what is the content, what is driving the file. This is strictly data collection and where the data is stored and who has access to the data. So in terms of that, I think it's very clear. I think as far as mandating who's going to take a test or not, that's not in this policy. That's going to come down the road. This is strictly like a hospital won't release your record or my record, or a doctor can discuss us. This is what this policy demonstrates here. So that's why.
It makes sense to me. It
just
makes sense
for clarity.
to me. Yeah, and unfortunately, I haven't done, there was over 700 pages to read here, and even though I read it, I need to go back on it, so it's nothing personal if I
Yeah, I just wanted to give you that clarity. That's what I understand as far as this policy.
Okay.
It's not anything driving the testing process, what tests are given, those types of things. It's really, like Mr. Blackman said, what's going in as far as date of birth, what's going in here, what's going in there, where does it go, who can access it, who can look at it.
Do we, does anybody know where we can find the parental rights within our current policy?
The most recent one that was just passed? I don't think we have that in our current policy. The most recent one that was just passed was actually a modification of one that was passed a year ago, and it actually balanced things a little bit more between school districts and parents. So parents have a right to pull their children out, but school districts don't have to provide every program under the sun. It's kind of the balancing act it did. But I don't think we've got a policy on that yet. I'm sure we'll get one from Eberhardt and Mackey soon.
And in light of the public commentary, I think it's something that should be considered, right? If I'm a parent and I have a child and I want to choose this or that, it's America. I should be able to choose that. You know, but that's a whole different discussion, I believe, than what this policy is dictating.
There are policies under the 600 section. There is a procedure there for a statement of concern about learning resources and materials that parents can file with the district. when they have disagreement with any learning materials or resources being used. It's 602.3. There's also how learning resources are selected in 602.4, but it is not to the depth of the new legislation that is coming out. And so my guess is that's where the policy will fall, is in parental rights under the selection of instructional materials. So it's going to be different than data. Data is really the FERPA stuff. It's really about personal identifiable data, names, addresses, any kind of identifiable data that identifies a student that they have a right to not be shared with anyone other than their family or specifically named, like the military.
Do we have a policy that is down the road that, because I know we had that whole list of we're going to try to get so many policies approved. Was there anything about parental rights?
That list is just finance, but we could have Mr. Blackman reach out to Eberhardt and Becky and see
we get quarterly
when that's
updates.
coming.
Our quarterly update will be coming in July, so we get them 4 times a year.
You could just call them and ask them when
This is an Eberhardt and Mackey policy itself.
Okay. Well, maybe we can bring that up for another discussion.
All right, so we have basically a motion and a second on the table to approve draft policy 901.9, 604.8, and 604.9. We'll go ahead and call the question, the motion that's on the table at this point in time. All those in favor of approving those 3 policies?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 3-1. Policy is approved. Item G, consideration of MOUs with City of Haley for Wood River Middle School field irrigation. Go ahead and call for a motion at this time.
I would like to make a motion to table this since it was kind of late in the day that we did get it, and I did not have time to properly review it. And so maybe we could table it until our next board meeting, or if it needs to be approved soon, maybe set a special meeting for that.
Is there any rush on tabling it with the City of Haley?
Yes. I don't know when, I'm looking at Mr. Royal. Do you know when their water rights expire if they're not using that well?
I think that the rights were transferred in 2010 or 11, so I know that there's a timeline. It's very time critical.
Well, this says that this is when was this? When was this supposed to be effective?
The City of Haley owns that well and owns the water rights there. And the state of Idaho has said that the water from that well may only be used for the Wood River Middle School athletic complex or fields. But the city hasn't been using it for that, and if you leave your water rights just sitting, you eventually lose them. So that's what the question is that we don't know. And we can certainly go back and ask that. I would propose that if we are tabling this, that we also go back and ask for them to extend the time on this, because we will not get any benefit from this year. We won't be able to get the pump in, the meter, hooked up to our system and everything before most of our season is over. So I would also propose that we go back to the city and ask for some extension on time.
I don't think the city has that right. I think it's the Department of Water Rights.
No. I'm talking about adding the extension on. The city gives us 3 years of free water, and we're basically already have 1 year of free water gone by the time we approve this in August and get it hooked up. So I would also go back to the city and say, we want 4 years of free water, because 1 year we're not really accessing it. So, but I agree, it was very late, and it was not good.
Sidewalks going in.
Okay, so we have a motion to table. Is there a second? Is there another motion on the table?
So we're supposed to be motioning to pass this policy?
If you wanted to table it, I think an option would be to make a motion to pass it or not accept it.
Okay.
Those are the two choices left, I would think.
It's time sensitive.
I'm concerned about the time-sensitive nature. I'm going to make a motion that we approve the MOU with the City of Haley.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? I would agree, I think, with the time-sensitive nature of it. Yeah, I would like to do a little bit more research in it, but I think it does save the district a little bit up front on that third year. I think the greater savings to the district come down the road.
Well, I'm kind of in agreement with Dr. Holmes that maybe we should get an extra year in there since we haven't had time to properly respond. I mean, we're losing a year of free water.
Okay, all those in favor of passing the MOU with the City of Haley? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
That was a tricky one.
Nay.
You threw in at the end. Nay.
Okay, motion fails 2-2. Is there another motion on the table?
I motion that maybe we take this back to the city and see if we can get an extra year of free water in that contract, since I do agree with Dr. Holmes that by the time we do get a pump put in, that probably is a time-consuming process, and if we do agree to this, it's too late to use that free water. And I would like to, if they've offered it, I don't know why we couldn't get another year out of it.
Can I ask for some more clarity from Howie, a little bit more clarity on this issue in terms of the time and in terms of what Trustee Bustos is bringing up in the year, and I'm starting to get confused.
Sure. So the city moved the water rights to that well about 5 years ago. So they need to utilize those rights or they're going to lose those rights. So the idea is that they're going to convey those rights to the school district, but in order for everything to work according to plan, those water rights have to be utilized. My understanding is this year.
Or they lose it.
Or they'll lose that right in that well. So the well is in place, and my understanding is it's a good well for irrigation. It wasn't a good well for the City of Haley's municipal use. It wouldn't pump enough, but my recollection is it'll pump 800 or 1,000 gallons a minute. We don't need near that much, so it'll be a good well for us. It's on the other side of McKercher. The idea would be build these basins, metering basins, control basins, piped underneath and tie into the main lines at the middle school, put the power in and do all that. So those things can be done this summer. You won't get a full summer's worth of use, but the water utilization will take place. It'll be such that it'll hopefully satisfy the Department of Water Resources with regard to what that use is going to be, that there'll be a full utilization in the future.
But
The rights were transferred in 2010.
2010. So.
But if we don't use the rights this year, basically, then the City of Haley will lose that and we'll lose the opportunity for the future.
Yeah,
What happens if the city loses the rights? I mean, the state has designated that the middle school can use it. Does it just...
They can sell it to somebody else.
Oh, they can sell it to somebody else.
In the current climate of water rights and water resource, I think it's a very dangerous game to be playing about pushing the availability of rights away versus taking whatever rights you get, because they're not going to be available in the future. So I think we're dancing on some pretty thin ice right here. Just my 2 cents on that part.
I would tend to agree with you.
And the municipal use, the water rates have gone up, and I don't expect them to ever go down. So whatever the water rate is this year, you can bet that it'll be more in the future. So you can't control that.
I don't know. I kind of feel like this is maybe more in our favor, because if they... I mean, I don't know what the advantages to the city are, but I think that this is more in our favor.
Well, the advantage to the city is that they don't have to develop more wells. So if we get off their system, it's literally millions of gallons. So that's one less well they have to drill in the immediate future. So they're hedging that, they can go longer without having to drill new wells for their municipal systems by getting us off of their domestic system.
I feel that maybe if we can get that extra year, that... I mean,
Sure.
if we have something working in our favor. we have room to play, I think. I know that there is time sensitive, and I don't see why we couldn't call a special meeting to get this if we can get those in the memorandum of understanding.
Right.
Well, do we know what IDWR's schedule is? Because it sounds like it's not, I mean, we're making the deal with Haley, but IDWR has the final say in this, correct?
That's my understanding.
So we don't have a sense of IDWR at all?
No.
We don't. So that's the danger of the game we're playing, because this really isn't about Haley, it's about them. Haley's willing to give it up, but IDWR controls the spigot, so to speak.
Well, I mean, if they want to get it to us this late, I mean, I feel like...
That may not be IDWR, though. That could be Haley.
Yeah.
And that IDWR doesn't care what time we get it.
Dr. Holmes.
It was not the best of circumstances. Getting it this afternoon was certainly not acceptable, but I do think we have to look past that and think about what is the best for district in the future. Over the next 3 years, it'll be pretty much a wash. Can I use that pun when we're talking about water?
We're punning it up.
But in going forward, if we have the opportunity to acquire this well, either through property transfer or purchase, this is a long-term win for the district as far as getting us off of that clicking meter for watering the fields. And so I guess at this point I would recommend you forgive and take a deal, even though it could have been a lot better. I agree. It could have been a lot better. But we mess up too.
Where do we stand, Mr. Chairman?
We'll call for a motion.
I'll make the motion for the MOU for the acceptance of the MOU with the City of Haley for Wood River Middle School field irrigation.
Motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 3-1. Item H, as amended, application for study travel by student group Luis Monjares, Wood River High School boys soccer team. And we pulled it out basically just to go over the chaperone ratio. I'll go ahead and open it up for discussion or motion at this time.
Where is that?
That would,
Was it added?
under application of study travel. It's how it's titled under the bookmark. And they have 32 boys going. Ratio is 5-1. As of right now, they don't have the proper number of chaperones to meet that 5-1 ratio with 32 students.
Required by policy.
And as required by policy. So in my estimation, if we approve this, it would be contingent upon them reaching that ratio as designated by policy.
They have how many and they need how many?
They have 32 students going. It looks like they have Luis Monjares, Eric Anderson, Juan Salamanca, John Koth, John Pierce, and 2+ if needed, but it does not designate who those 2+ are. So I would just recommend that
They've got a little bit more than a 6-to-1 ratio.
They'll find them.
Yeah, but I think they can get them.
So I would make the motion that we accept this travel request contingent upon that the proper ratio of students to chaperones is met prior to departure.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. And brings us to our last item. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second that.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Meeting adjourned at 9:34.